You didn't say applied anything.
Yes, I said applied engineering was my exact words. You're just not listening.
I am listening, and I'm pretty sure we can go back.
Go back.
Video. I'll start writing down all the notes.
I'll tell you what. You buy in and out for the entire studio if we back this up and I said in applied engineering.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Where's Brian? Back it up.
Where did you say applied engineering specifically?
If I said women have trouble and struggle physically with applied engineering, yep, then you'll buy in and out for the whole studio.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. How long ago? This was only, rewind it to a minute and a half.
I don't know. I think it's really interesting because when we look at parts of our history, even within the United States, when a shit ton of men, like the population of men, like, decreased, because they were all at war, because they all basically went out. It's not like things collapsed on themselves.
Like, that's because men were still here running things.
Yeah, no, but women could still, and maybe we just fundamentally disagree here, but women could still be in those positions of power and things would still work.
No, they weren't in the positions of power.
No, but they could be.
No, I don't think that they could be. So
okay, well, here we have a fundamental disagreement.
And that's what we're debating. So let's get into the debate. When all the men went off to war and women went and worked in the factories, they were putting screws in a fucking pack. They weren't designing the bombs. They weren't designing the grenades.
Do you think women aren't capable of designing bombs or grenades?
I think that they have extreme trouble with physical engineering. Because
physical engineering.
You did not say physical, applied engineering. You said applied. There's a difference.
What? Physical is applied.
No, okay. You said applied engineering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go get the fucking in and out. You can't weasel your way out of this one.
My way. There's a very big.
That was it.
Further back? No, I want to go now further back. Because he said physical.
Listen, you're right.
It's a very. Huh? Okay.
You need to go back.
It's fine.
I just need the in and out. That's what I need.
There's a very.
You're not getting out of the in and out.
There's a very big difference between, what is it? Me having to physically build a bomb.
Yep.
Versus me engineering a bomb for physical use. Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you agree women are capable of physically designing a bomb?
What I said is that women have trouble with physical engineering, which is a lot of applied engineering, yes.
Okay. I'm trying to how to phrase this.
Putting your hand on your face doesn't make you a better debater.
I know, I'm frustrated.
It's a destinyism. You got to stop. Next to you're going to do the triangle. Do the triangle hands. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Applied engineering, or I want to even say physical applied engineering, and maybe I'm just wrong here. Maybe we can Google the definitions. There's a difference between design, right, and designing things for application and for use, versus actually physically building those things.
Yeah.
Most engineering, and maybe I'm wrong here. I'm open to being wrong. Is focused on design. It's not focused on me actually building those things. That's somebody else's job.
That would be the person I'm talking about.
Okay.
You see, the person.
But we specifically were talking about
you
design.
can design a house, right?
Yes.
But somebody has to build a house.
Yes.
You're the designer going to build a house.
Yeah, okay.
So when I say that women have trouble with physical engineering, what I'm saying is that when they have to actually apply past the this is in my mind and build the fucking thing, where you need the engineers to actually build it, they have a big fucking struggle with that.
Okay, but that's interesting because I asked you specifically, do you think women are going to have trouble designing bombs?
And I said no. I said, but what they have trouble with is physical engineering.
Maybe my reality is being lapsed or something with yours or something, because I thought you specifically said, yes, you're going to have trouble with it.
They do have trouble because of the physical application
But these are two separate things.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you is that, listen, if you have women who are just there in an engineering, all the men are off at war, okay? This was the point of this. All the men are off at war, and a woman designs a phenomenal bomb, like the bestest bomb ever. Doesn't matter if she can't fucking build it, or the other women around can't fucking build it if it requires the male engineers. That's the point.
Okay, here's another thing. It does require a level of strength to build things. However, we also, and I'm saying machinery as if it's this really complicated thing, but I'm talking about simple pulley or lever systems. Ever since humanity first could build things to get out of having to use their brute physical strength, they have. And this has come to the advantage of both men and women who are capable of doing this. I'm not saying men and women are one-on-one when it comes to physical strength.
Then
I've never said that.
Then why haven't they been building shit forever?
They have.
What?
They have. Maybe not in the same way.
I'll tell you what, name one single female invention.
I'm trying to think of what is it. There's a specific tool in agriculture.
What's it called?
I can't. Let's Google it right now.
No, it's not. Can you just name it?
No, I am gonna.
No, name it. You can't name a single one.
I can't.
You gotta Google it.
Well, what is it? You're just asking me about specifically.
You said women invent shit all the time. What? What are they inventing?
They literally specifically invented a form of agriculture that had to do with what is it? Oh, rotational crop fielding, something like that. That's the exact terminology or something.
Can you think of a tool?
I don't think you can even bring back the first tools to man or women. I don't think you have the first I don't think it's fair to say the first spear was built by a man or the first hammer.
Why not?
Because we have no evidence of that. We just have evidence of humans using tools.
Yeah, we know who brewed the first beers. They were monks.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, but we're talking about very basic tools. We're talking about tools that either a man or woman can do.
Now you're obfuscating him.
No, I'm not obfuscating.
Your claim was, since the beginning of time, when we figured out the pulley and the lever system, which I would say we probably had access to even from an evolutionary prism for 50,000 years or more.
Sure, yeah.
Okay? If that is the case, this was not knowledge which was just limited to men. Okay, so if that is the case, where's all these women building all these fucking societies, knowing how to use that pulley and that lever system?
Because society, well, let's start here. You do know that there are societies and that there were societies before.
By the way, how can you be a
physical
feminist
buildings
and have to Google a single female invention?
I have female accomplishments from the top of my head, but regardless of that, separate from that.
Okay.
You do know there were societies that existed before the invention of like a concrete building, right? You do know this. Okay, cool. You know what a nomadic society is?
There were?
Yeah,
wait,
there were.
Wait,
Cool.
They didn't have concrete buildings?
Yeah, cool. So you know what nomadic
Oh my God!
societies were?
Debate over. I concede.
You know, okay.
No, I didn't know that. Now
You didn't know nomadic
that just blew my
societies
mind.
existed.
There was societies which existed without concrete
Yes,
buildings.
I know it's very hard to believe.
Go ahead.
So you know about nomadic societies, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you know for like tens of thousands, if not a lot more years, the way that humans lived, for the vast majority of societies humans lived in were nomadic societies, right? Yes. The answer is yes.
So wait a second. We're not sure. Here's why. We do know that we had civilizations up to 10,000 years ago, real civilizations that had governments and writing and sophisticated individuals who ran inside those civilizations. So when you say most of these societies were nomadic,
We're talking
not
about
sure,
early-
because we've lost tons and tons of information on even the societies which existed 10,000 years ago. There could have been great societies which existed before that. Not sure about that.
Okay.
Not sure I'm willing to concede that most of them, even up to 20,000 years ago, were nomadic.
Okay. At least according to most like modern anthropologists and even those beforehand, what seems to be
When you use that tone like
Sorry.
this, it actually doesn't help your case, but it is annoying.
well, I want
right.
to maybe
Anyway, go ahead.
annoy a little bit because it's just my voice.
It's the destiny tone. Why do you all
not-
do,
I don't
why do, you
even
all do
watch
that
Destiny.
anyway? Why, so we look at the da and the da 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 da
Okay.
and the da da and the da da, right?
So when we look at most societies, I'm just gonna keep doing it because you keep calling out, so it's harder to even like forget. Basically, throughout most human history, we were nomadic creatures. We would basically hunt and travel in groups essentially. And then it usually became like once the agricultural or the first agricultural revolution came, where we were like, oh my God, we could actually stay in this area. We can actually grow things here. We don't have to constantly move from one place to another
and
place to
animal
another
husbandry
place.
and all of this. I don't know what this has to do with anything.
Because you're saying, oh, why weren't women essentially building like these intense architectural
They've had at least
designs?
10,000 years.
And then the
10,000 years of
answer
recorded
comes to,
history.
The fact is, we've had societies for tens of thousands of years that just weren't based on like having to have physical structure to function. Like that's just it. This came as
Yeah, but that would
opposed
be
to-
for men. And so what I'm saying is when we did, which is at least 10,000 years, at least 10,000 years, we've had standing buildings with structures that had some kind of government in them, this type of thing. At least you would agree 4,000 years ago. We had great structures, cities, nations, the whole 9 yards. Up to 2,000 years ago, which is a long fucking time, 2,000 years. Where's all these fucking female inventions, civilizations? Where's all these great
So the answer-
contributions? Where are they at?
Oh my gosh. Okay. What I want to say, or what I want to explain, is that
The ancient world stigmatized women.
well, what happened was after the agricultural revolution, what it seemed to happen is that men got more control of the agricultural supply. So they gained more level and power in society to institute essentially societal rules. So if you want to talk about like why haven't women done this or why women haven't done that, well,
How come they couldn't just use their big brains to stop that from happening?
post-agricultural revolution, part of the reason is men did institute these systems of power in place that benefited them.
Because they're much stronger than women?
Partially because of physical force.
No,
Yeah.
well, wait. What would
Sorry,
the
no,
other?
let's go for it.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
physical
because
force.
of physical force, because they're much stronger than women.
But that doesn't mean that society was always predicated upon brute physical force. Because as we've seen before,
I think
we've
society
had nomadic
right this second
societies.
is predicated on brute physical
force. Okay. Sure, we could talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So this is what we were leading into
Wait, but
anyway.
I need to clarify.
Okay.
You're saying, this is just how it is. This is just how it be. And I'm trying to say, no, there were, tens of thousands of years before modern day civilization where we still existed in a society without brute physical force,
Where?
essentially. Nomadic societies.
Nomadic societies use brute physical force all the time.
Okay, nomadic societies as a whole were not predicated on this idea of men have all this 100% control over women. What it seemed to be is that we would hunt and gather at packs.
When you say seemed, I need you to take a stronger position than seemed. Say seemings. Seemings are frustrating to me because I'm not really committing to this. I'm just saying, I think so, maybe. So without using the word seem, are you willing to commit to that position?
I'm willing to commit to the fact that the way that early human society formed and was structured was basically around, nomadic principles of essentially always moving, hunting in packs as groups together, taking care of children together, basically wandering around the globe in the pursuit of
Yeah, but
bigger
civilization's predicated on force. You agree with that?
Yes, I would say after, yeah.
Okay, and
After-
including this one.
We're talking about modern civilization. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, modern being whatever
post-agricultural-
civilization is stationary.
Post-agricultural revolution.
Yeah. So that's all predicated on physical force.
Somewhat, but I'll say yes for now.
Okay. So men have the monopoly on this force.
Not anymore, but they did.
How do we not have a monopoly on force now?
What happened was essentially with the invention of modern weaponry, which became like essentially like a great equalizer, and not just modern weaponry, but also the ability. I guess we can say bombs are a type of modern weaponry.
You
Still.
realize modern weaponry still requires physical strength to use.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But the point is, if I have a gun and you don't, you're fucked.
Yeah, but what if you have a gun and I have a gun?
Yeah,
Who
but
has
the problem
advantage?
is not everybody is strapped all the time.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
No, it
need
does
to be.
matter.
No,
It does. 100%. It does.
I can demonstrate this for you.
Okay. It does matter because if I had a gun in this room right now, it would make me basically the czar of violence or whatever.
But you would be disadvantaged compared to men who had them.
Maybe.
Well, here's how I can demonstrate this.
I know
for
you're
you.
gonna talk. You're gonna talk about recoil and stuff like that.
Nope, I'm just going to talk about a basic statistic. Which
Sure, go for
okay,
it.
so women have their guns taken away from them in physical altercations where they're defending themselves at like 10 times the rate that men do.
Okay.
So which means that they 10 times the rate, right? But let's just say it's just double, or let's just say it's just I don't know half again. They're still at a disadvantage to men, even when it comes to having weapons.
Yeah, there is.
So men still.
multitude-
So even if you use the weapons as being a force multiplier, men would still have the advantage.
There is a multitude of factors that are going into conflating in here. So right, when it comes to women getting like their weaponry taken away from them, it could be argued that like okay, maybe it's because women aren't necessarily like socialized to shoot per se.
Because they're not as strong as men, and so
Not
so
because
I
they're
would
not
so
strong as
so
men,
here
but
no
because
look
women are
I'll-
taught to be
no, but
very
that's
nurturing
that's
and
fucking
loving.
insane. Look, I'll demonstrate it for you really easy. I think you're gonna have to concede this point. If not, I don't even know where to go from there. If a woman who is not you but has the same amount of firearms training that you do is twice as strong as you are.
Paladins donated $100. Wow, what a gross misunderstanding of history. No concept at all of where our foods come from. Try and go kill a cow with some stone tools, princess. How is that not brute
Well,
force?
that's true. Well, that's the part of the force predicate, but we're getting to it. If a woman who was not you, but had the exact same amount of weapons training that you did, was twice as strong as you, would she have an advantage with weapons over you?
She had more training,
Same.
but she was more strong than me.
She was just double your strength, but had the same amount of weapons knowledge. Would she have an
Is she
advantage?
faster than me?
She's just stronger.
I'm not sure.
Would she have an advantage over you if she was armed and you were not versus you were armed and she was not?
She was armed. I'm not.
Yes, if she's armed and you're not,
She would have an advantage over me.
and if you were armed and she was not, right?
have
That
an
advantage, well, you would have the advantage from the gun, right?
Yes.
But she would have an advantage over you if you were unarmed, right?
If I was unarmed, yeah.
So think of it this way. In this situation, if you had a gun and she did not, she would have more of an advantage than if she had a gun and you did not. You see what I'm saying? So it would still, her chances of being able to disarm you would still be better than your chances of disarming her in the same situation.
Yeah, the question becomes essentially who shoots faster and more accurate. If we
Well,
both have
fast
gun.
is a matter of strength as well. Guns require great hand strength. You don't believe me?
No, it's not that I don't believe you.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Walk me through loading a semi-automatic handgun.
I'm not going to walk you through loading a semi-automatic.
Okay, walk me through loading a revolver.
I'm not going to walk you through loading.
Walk me through
I'm
loading a
going to- no,
revolver.
let me
Hang on.
I'm not going to walk you through anything.
Okay,
what
got
I
it.
will tell you is that
It's
we look at
my-
Olympic
it's not-
level.
I'm not done with the inquiry, and
Okay.
then you can ask me yours.
Here.
Can you walk me through loading a rifle?
I'm not going to talk to you about
Have you ever
walking
even used a
through-
gun?
Yes, I've used a gun
What
before.
kind?
I've used a pistol and rifle before.
What kind?
I don't remember the exact kind, but none of this questioning has to do with the basic of what we were trying to get
Oh,
here.
no, I think that it gets right to the
because
core
what you're
principle
trying-
of the
no,
force
what you're
monopoly.
what you're trying to do is that you're trying to essentially flex. I have more, knowledge on specific
Nope,
gunnery.
I don't care about that.
Okay,
what I
well,
care
then
about
why-
is the force monopoly and your misunderstanding of it.
No, because what I am trying to convey here is very simple. When we
Okay.
look at even like Olympic style athletes, Olympic shooting, top of the top, they're thinking about getting rid of individual gender categories because guess what? Men and women are shooting essentially almost exactly the same rate.
That's because they're using 22s.
Okay. The point being.
Yeah, if they were using 50 caliber BMGs, you would have gender categories, I promise.
Okay. The point being is that when it comes to weaponry,
Nick,
when it comes to the great force equalizer, unless if we are living in a hypothetical world where everybody is strapped all the time, which they are not, the person usually, even though there are exceptions, there are cases you can wrestle out the gun from the person's arm, whatever, like that does happen. The vast majority of time, the person who has the gun is at a ridiculous advantage.
And who has all the guns?
Whoever, like both men and women have guns right now.
Who has the
more
most overwhelming majority, not even close?
Yeah, okay.
Who is it? Which one?
No, you're going to be like, oh, you see, men have a lot of guns, so that's
This
why.
is your case for force multiplication. My case for force multiplication is one, men can build guns. Women don't seem to be very competent at building guns. We've had 3D tech for an awful long time to just build your own. They don't do it. I'm not
it's
even
not that
sure.
they're incapable
well,
of
when you
doing
say
it.
that, right? What's your demonstration that they are?
What do you
That most women are capable of even building their own gun.
I think because, very simply put, and we can Google the instructions of like how to build a gun. It's something that most people who have the knowledge and the schematics to do can do. It's not something that is like, oh no, you have to be at least 6'5" to be able to build a gun. Like that's not the
Why
case.
do you think it is that women don't really ever build them?
I think women are usually trained from a young age to not really be into stuff that are violent. I think that's generally the case.
Well, wait, that's weird. There's nations in which women have to do mandatory military service. They're still not building guns.
Yeah, but even in nations that have mandatory military service, there's still very specific roles that we generally push women and men to do.
So how do you think that right now in modern society that men don't have the monopoly on force? How do women have any sort of comparable monopoly on force to men? I gotta know.
What is it? The monopoly of force, even if you say like, oh no, men in general have more guns, therefore they have more monopoly on force.
Well, they have the monopoly on force from physical strength.
Yeah, I think it's also
Physical strength and the ability to produce things that are even make them even more powerful.
Yeah,
right?
I think even the way that you're conceptualizing monopoly of force is, I don't want to say gross misrepresentation, but a little bit. Here, let's phrase it this way.
Okay.
How do you think war, I think I know what I'm going to get to. Oh, whatever.
Okay.
You are equating the ability to use brute force to the ability of power. Or you're saying power essentially comes from the ability of being like physically powerful. Yeah, no. That's where we have a fundamentally disagreement.
Okay, so powerful people don't rely on enforcement.
Powerful people don't just rely on brute force.
No, that's not what I said.
Wait, let me finish.
That wasn't what I said.
I know, you said on enforcement.
Mm-hmm. And what does enforcement rely on?
Multiple different things.
What?
One of them, I'll grant you, one of them is physical.
Lol Paladins donated $100. It's the same reason there are no women Navy SEAls. It's not because their co-workers will tease them.
because we don't want women to be in the Navy and the SEAls.
Eliminating
It's
terrorists and protecting their country.
It's not because Pxie over here couldn't walk me through how to load a gun. It's because the stigma against women in the Navy is preventing them from completing basic underwater demolition training.
Let's focus.
All right, I'm focusing.
One of the ways to enforce power is through brute force. That is one way.
No, all power is going to have enforcement. All.
Yeah, but there's different types of enforcement.
Okay, but all of it's going to reduce to brute force.
I disagree.
Okay, give me a power dynamic that's not going to reduce to brute force.
Let's say you have a person, a guy who doesn't want to pay child support or whatever. You can have the state throw him into physical jail, whatever. Or if he's doing his job, he's going to work, you could have a social agreement with a job, essentially, to garnish your wages. So that is an agreement that technically there's no physical force involved.
Oh, wait,
you can just
that's
talk.
really weird. What happens if the guy who's paying him says, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah, in a theoretical world, that could result
Yeah,
into
what if he
physical
says
force.
that?
But
No,
that
it's not
doesn't matter.
theoretical.
You're looking.
Don't go.
what-
Let me
you're-
finish
no,
answering the
okay,
question.
You're missing the force.
Let me finish
Okay,
answering
here, finish
or asking the question, then you can answer it. What happens in your scenario? This is your scenario. Guy A, who is the payer, right? And he is paying X to the state, says, I'm not going to give it to you.
You changed my scenario.
What happens to him?
You changed my scenario.
Yeah, well, because
you changed my scenario to something else.
wait. The thing that makes your scenario work implicitly is force.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Let me finish. Let me explain.
Then why would anybody pay it?
Because maybe, we socially agree, the payer is like, wow, I think it's really fucked up that guy isn't paying his child support. I agree with you. I'm going to garnish his wages. He's not physically, it's a social agreement.
So wait a second. I agree with you that two people can make an agreement external force. However, any agreement that they make, if there's a violation of it, it's going to require force, no matter what.
Okay, but we have clear.
Which means everything that is the pinnacle of what you're talking about, any of the social contract bullshit you're talking about, physical contracts you're talking about, any contract you're talking about, if there's a violation of it, you're resorting to force.
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to get across is that I quite clearly listed an example where it is possible to enforce something without physical force.
Nope. Physical force is implicit.
No, there's
yes.
no implicit thing. The person doesn't have to garnish his wages. The person can be like, no, you know what? Take him to jail instead or whatever. You could theoretically.
That would be force.
Yeah, no. But the point is, again, I think you're missing the forest.
No, I think you're missing the forest of the trees. All of that requires force.
No, because the point is, you could theoretically have an example where none of it required force. The person just had to
give me that
agree.
example.
I literally just gave it to you, and you're like, no, there's an implicit.
Because the example here of consent. Wait a second, we can make a contract with each other, and as long as we both follow the contract.
It's not even a contract, it's just an agreement.
An agreement's a contract.
No, but a contract basically presupposes that there's going to be some level of, terms, essentially. You get this, I get this.
And if the terms get violated.
Then whatever happens.
Then there's force.
Sure.
So the thing that gives that contract validity.
You can have an agreement with a person that, you basically get what you want without any implicit threat of force. You could literally
Ulysses
have
the
the
pagan
person.
donated $100. The point is that
Exactly.
the courts and then police would have
Have
to
to
enforce
enforce
the
it. They
man
would
to
have
pay
to.
support. If refusal, they're going to jail using force.
Yeah, the problem.
Yeah,
with
no,
it-
then
I
you're
get your
bringing it to
argument.
the
I'll
person
steel man the
individual.
argument, and instead of spurging and screaming, just like listen to what
I
I'm saying.
love spurging.
I know, and screaming, but instead of screaming, like don't be the screeching feminist for a second.
I love screeching.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
to steel man.
Lol Paladins donated $100. Perfect example. She can agree to buy you in and out by making a bad bet contract.
True.
But without force, she isn't ever going to actually
think
do
so.
it.
I don't think she's
That's
going
the
to.
problem with bad contracts without
Force, right? So the thing is I'm going to agree to this principle. The agreement of the principle is that if I agree or enter into an agreement with you of any kind, and I hold up my end of the agreement, you hold up your end of the agreement, we can have something where there's no force. But what I am going to say is that there's an implicit underlying kind of thing here, which is saying if you don't agree, because otherwise why would we need agreements, or if you change the agreement, there's going to be some kind of repercussion. Otherwise, why would you even need an agreement in the first place? So if I say to you, okay, we're going to take this guy's fucking money. I agree with you. I'm going to garnish his wage. I'm going to give it to you. Great, you're right. There's no force at all that's applied there, but there is the threat implicitly of force if I suddenly say, I changed my fucking mind. Right? Now it's, okay, now there's going to be a repercussion. So I still think that that's force doctrine. I'm not sure you've given me an example where it's not force doctrine.
Do you think we can have, let's say in this theoretical society or whatever, you as an employer have either the right to agree with me, or you can say, oh no, you know what, you're gonna have to take it up with him instead, or individually through the state, whatever. As an employer, I'm gonna choose to step away from this and not, touch his wages or whatever. Such a society could exist, right?
Where an employer opts to not deal with the state in a...
Or not, yeah, to basically, when it comes to like garnishing their wages, you know what? Instead of me doing it, go to the bank instead. That's the first route would be...
Yeah, I guess the guy could exit himself from this entire situation, sure.
Yeah, okay. So, in such a society where that is an option, there is no implicit threat of force over you not agreeing with me, or for you deciding to not
Well,
garnish
because
his wages.
there hasn't been any agreement.
Yeah, no, but you could say, hey.
So yeah, I guess in a,
And then you could pull
in a
out-
society where you make no agreements.
Well, no, that's
Gotcha.
literally not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you could easily have a society where, you just agree with me. You're like, yeah, that guy fucking sucks. I'm going to garnish his wages. Don't worry about it.
No, that society
That is-
would still need force, yeah.
I'm not saying this. I'm giving you an example. I'm giving you a specific
Yeah, I know,
example.
but even in this specific example, it sure seems like the implicit threat of force
Well, no,
is still there.
I'm telling you literally, hey, you know what? Like, we can basically institute this rule without any force, and then if you decide to step away from it, I'm not gonna put a gun in your head and say, no, you have to garnish your wages. I have to go to the bank instead and do an agreement with that, and maybe that might involve force. But the point that I'm trying to get across is this is one example where we're
force?
able to institute a change without any force or implicit threat of force, because you don't have to say yes to me.
In order for you to be capable of having a society which even exists, where you're allowed to have an agreement with somebody that they can back out of, and then you have to go external, you would have to have protectors of that society, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
And would those protectors be like armed military guys with vests and fucking helmets and tanks and
You're
bombs
talking
and
about
guns?
police force.
Yeah,
But
wouldn't you have to have an
that
enforcement arm?
That wasn't the original question, essentially.
No, the original thing is that society has, all societies operate off of force doctrine, and men have the monopoly on force, and all you've done is demonstrate that that's true.
No, the argument that you were originally presupposing or supposing, whatever, was that it is not possible to basically exert power without physical force. And I gave you an example.
Yeah, that's not exerting power. No,
Yes, it is.
No, it's
Getting
not.
a person's wages
No, it's not.
garnished
There's
is
an
a form of
implicit
power.
threat of force there.
No, but I literally gave you an example where you were not threatened by force to garnish their wages.
How could you, for instance, lead a community, an entire community of hundreds of people, absent a force doctrine? How could that even be done?
That's not, what is it? That was not the original.
Well, that's power. That's exercising power.
Okay, that's not what we were originally talking. Well, that's basically you're extrapolating to a larger example because you can't contend with the fact that I did give you an example where no physical force had to be involved to execute
It
power.
was implicit in the contract
It's not,
itself.
We literally disagreed that the person was
Okay.
not implicitly threatened, that they could say, I don't want to, and it would have to go to the bank or somewhere else.
Okay, person B can back out of this entire arrangement and use no force.
Yes.
Don't disagree. However, that still leaves with person A who wants the child support, person C who
Yes,
doesn't.
and that might involve
Stop.
force. I'm just
Stop.
okay.
So person A still exists. He still wants support, still wants to get it from personal C. We still have force. All you've done is say if you back away from making an agreement of any kind socially with anybody, you don't have to worry about force doctrine. Okay, so what?
That's not
an exercise of power. In fact, the power dynamic here is the collector. He's the guy who has the power. The guy he's trying to collect from does not have the power. So guy A still has the power and is still exercising force.
first of all. And now the example that you just gave me of guy A garnishing the wages, therefore he has the power. That's also an example where it's not physical force, where he's using money.
It's backed with physical force.
He's using essentially money to, or like the ability to like give money to leverage his power, which is another example of power not necessarily needing physical force.
Wait. Okay, listen. Let's go through this scenario again. Guy A, he's our collector, right? Guy A is collector. Guy B is our middleman. You agree, right? Our middle guy, he's the guy you're collecting from. And then guy C, he is our agent we're taking from, okay? So we'll call him, well, we won't call him agent. We'll call him victim, okay? So he's our victim.
Okay.
So our collector goes to our middleman and says, I want C's money, okay? And B agrees. He's like, great, I'll give you C's money. I don't give a fuck, right? Now we've entered into an agreement. Now guy B says, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. You're saying that under the laws of the land, guy B can back out of that. Guy A can give him no repercussions for doing that. However, guy B was never the guy who had the power here to begin with.
He did. He
never.
just
Guy
A
was the guy who was collecting from guy B. Guy B only had the power to ever walk away from the arrangement, but had no power over the arrangement itself. Guy A is still in power, still has force, can still go after Guy C.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Guy B obviously still has power because he obviously could garnish the wages. He obviously has the ability to monetarily control someone.
Guy A.
Here, pass me the thing.
Absent Guy A, Guy B is not garnishing shit, right?
Oh, okay. I don't see that.
Guy A. Guy A is absent. Guy A. Guy B isn't garnishing anything, right?
Okay, you're saying collector, middleman,
and then our victim.
And the middleman is the one who can garnish.
No. Guy A is asking middleman to garnish.
And you're saying the middleman doesn't really have any power.
Right, because the collector who's approaching him, he has the power in the situation, because he's saying, even if you move away from this, I can still just directly go after Guy C. Guy B, just because he agrees to work with Guy A, doesn't actually have the power in this situation.
We just fundamentally disagree here, because...
What?
Yeah, no, we do.
On what?
Because the middleman has the ability to garnish or not garnish wages. That is a form of power.
Okay, but
being able to execute financial control over someone is a form of power without force.
This is the opposite. Guy B, if he disagrees, what happens to him?
Nothing happens, as we've established here.
And so then Guy A just bypasses him and goes for Guy C, right?
Yeah, finds a different way to go.
So how did Guy B ever have power here?
Because Guy B can decide whether to garnish the wages or not.
And by the way, let me ask you this. If you're Guy A, right, and Guy B can tell you no and you can just directly go after Guy C, why would you use Guy B?
Because, as we've stated before, there's forms of executing power that don't include brute force. So brute force might be the last option. It might be not the most reliable option. There's a chance the other guy might fight back. That's why we have so many forms of power in our society that don't rely on brute force. That are all backed on brute.
What? No, I can't really think of any.
Money is the biggest one. Money is the biggest reinforcer. Money is the one that is like most easy to control and manipulate other people with.
So utilizing incentives, right? I agree that you can accumulate some kind of power, which is then going to have some kind of enforcement arm to keep no matter what. There's no power dynamic I can think of that's not going to require some kind of force or enforcement. Even you getting divorced is going to require enforcement. Even you having child custody is going to require enforcement. You driving down the street requires enforcement. You sleeping at night requires enforcement. Everything you do has an enforcement arm behind it.
Yeah, I think or maybe our major disagreement, or I'm not even sure anymore, but basically, there are forms of executing power that don't rely on brute force. Now, if you don't get what you want, you might eventually end up doing brute force. But there are still ways of controlling other people that don't involve a gun to your head.
I'm not saying that you can't make incentive programs or agreements which people can follow or that people will volunteer for. What I'm saying is that there's no power dynamic that I'm aware of where force is not implicit. If the contract is broken, or I can't use money, or I can't get you to agree, then we use force. Otherwise, we would have no criminal element. We just bribe them out of being criminals, right? And you can't do that. You can't bribe everybody out of being criminals. You got to still, no matter what, even in your communist, socialist utopia, where everybody's singing fucking kumbaya and they're all, playing guitars around trees, there's going to be some fucking element there which is going to require enforcement, no matter what.
Yeah, I think...
And who are those people going to be, do you think, for the most part? Men or women executing that enforcement?
Yeah, it's basically the people who hold weaponry. So if the vast majority...
Oh, it's the people who hold weaponry.
Yes, it is. Because as we've stated before, for the vast majority of cases, even though, yes, women might be more likely to get wrestled out, it doesn't matter, because the vast majority of cases, the person who holds a weapon is a person with advantage.
So let me ask you a question. Let's assume for a second that you were in charge of a prison, right? Each one of your prison guards, they have a weapon, right? In this case, a fucking club. And some of them who sit up in the guard towers, they have rifles. That's true, okay? And what their job is to make sure that this collection of really, really strong fucking men who are in there for a variety of very violent crimes, they were kept under control and guarded day and night. You could choose the most qualified security team possible for this. The women are just as trained as the men as prison guards, right? They have the exact same amount of training, the same skill set. Would you go with all women or all men?
This is okay. Obviously.
This is okay is not an argument.
No, to me, this is just, what is it? The deflection? Or I'm not sure if deflection is the right word. The point is, as we've stated before, when it comes to brute physical strength, or even
no, you said it's the weapons that matter.
Let me finish. Even weapons that do include a greater amount of strength,
All
they're
of
not
them?
great. Yeah, but no, there's a huge difference between me having to sway around like a javelin or something. Let's use something like that as an example, versus me, but it still just requires a level of strength, but being able to shoot somebody from across the room.
Oh, really? So you
Yes.
don't have to carry ammunition, magazines, tactical vests, sidearm, helmets. You don't have to carry hundreds of
point
pounds of
is-
equipment with you
the
while
point
you're
is-
using these
The point
weapons
is, when
that
the
you don't
bullet
have to
goes
swing.
through you, the chances,
that's not the point.
Oh, yes, it is the point, because the vast majority of people, once that bullet fucking goes through you, you're gonna be
The
down.
point here is
you're gonna be down for the
which
count.
sex is more capable of handling these weapons, and so thus will always have monopoly even with weapons. When it comes to weaponry itself,
Oh, and this
a
is another
prison.
thing.
Let me
This is-
finish
sorry,
my
okay.
turn. Inside of a prison, for instance, you have guards who hold mini 14s. Okay, mini 14s do require some strength to wield accurately, and you're going to be loading up fucking magazines. It takes a lot of hand strength.
Ulysses the Pagan donated $100. Pxie is hung up on. Enforcement doesn't mean exclusively physical force. If you get a speeding ticket, the courts have the enforcement power to compel to pay. Refusal then brings involuntary compliance.
But that is physical force. So actually, that is a physical force example. If you refuse to pay, we're going to use physical force to make you pay. But here, when I'm talking about inside of a prison, you think that guns themselves are just, I have this lightweight,
not what
little
I'm
tiny
trying to
gun.
say.
Well, then what are you trying to say?
No, what I'm trying to say is that for the vast majority of people, if a person is weaponless and another person has a gun, specifically a gun, the person who does not have anything is at a disadvantage.
Yes, but I don't even
Log
disagree
Paladins
that that's
donated
true.
$100. Sorry in advance, but all women understand this. I'm a big, strong man. I want Pxie. The only thing keeping you safe from me is force.
Right.
Sleep comfortably tonight because force is protecting you from me.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's
point-
the thing. I'm gonna give you these two scenarios to try to take this to its logical conclusion as fast as we can. All the gun distribution in the United States, right this second, overnight, okay, disappear from the hands of men and are redistributed to all women in the United States. They now have every gun inside of the United States. That's what they have. The men have 0 guns. They have none, not a single one, okay? And the women collectively decide, we're going to enslave men, okay? That's what they decide. They have all the guns. They should be able to enslave all the men, right?
No, I don't think so. I think, but I don't think it's the other way around either. I think there's a reason.
Triangle. I'm doing the triangle.
There's a reason why even there's a reason why even most patriarchal societies fall down, even if men do have the monopoly of violence in those areas as well. And the reason why is because the way that
What
warfare.
patriarchies are falling down? They're doing fine.
I don't. Well, do you think the United States is the same patriarchy it was 100 years ago?
It's never been. It was a republic from the gate.
Okay. Do you think a patriarchy and republic are fundamentally opposing? I thought.
They can be, yeah. But what I'm
They can,
saying
but
is
they're
that
not always.
this wasn't set up as a traditional patriarchy. This was set up as a weird, kind of bizarre Protestant Enlightenment experiment.
Yeah. Has a patriarchy ever fallen down before?
Well, yeah, but there's only ever been patriarchy. There's never been
No, but
real
there's
matriarchies.
No, I'm not saying it has to be matriarchy. Then I'm just saying it's like
So I mean,
no
if the
longer
pool
a
is
patriarchy.
100% and some of them fall off, I don't
Yeah,
even know how that would make
but
a
I'm
point.
saying it goes from a full-on patriarchy to basically a much more egalitarian society compared to before.
I don't know that you can even avoid patriarchy. I have fundamental disagreements that a society can even exist really absent of patriarchy. But let's get
Can
back
a-
to
wait,
this.
sorry, can a
No,
society
you
become
can't.
less
I'm not gonna
patriarchal?
let you deflect.
Okay,
Why
sorry,
is it
sorry,
that
yeah.
the collective of all women inside of the United States, if they had firearms and decided to enslave men, why is it that they couldn't?
I don't think either way. Maybe temporarily. But I think that
I
would
mean,
fall
definitely
apart.
men could do it.
No, I think again.
I can give you
think-
societies
let
right
me
now where they've
finish.
done it.
Yeah, no. Please let me finish.
Okay.
I think it would be possible temporarily to enslave maybe the other half of the population, but the way that most warfare works out is not even brute force, brute strength. I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
The United States in the 60s against the Viet Cong, the average American was a lot better nutritioned, stronger, even the scrawnier ones, whatever, than the average Viet Cong person.
That is incorrect.
I do not believe that's incorrect.
Not only is that
Search that up right now.
Well, go ahead.
Here.
So the Viet Cong operated on a fish rice diet. They were extremely strong. They were very lithe. And they were able to operate for way longer periods of time absent food than the American soldier was. They were not weaklings by
I'm not
any
saying that they were weaklings.
metric.
I didn't say they were weaklings. I'm saying that, yeah, it did not seem like the nutritional standard was necessarily the
was
same.
better.
I don't know about that.
Rice and fish?
Here, can you guys go,
Are you
let me-
serious? Rice and fish?
Yes.
That's like the staple for how these people live to 120 years old.
Regardless, we could use another example.
Okay.
We could say the average American soldier versus the British Army. That's another example.
You mean when?
In the 1800s, like when we were, or sorry, before 1800s.
You mean in the 1700s or
Yes,
the Revolution?
Yes, 1700s.
Yeah, the British were way better. They had way better nutrition. Men couldn't cook.
Yeah, and we still somehow won.
Why? Because of the French?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That had nothing to do with it.
No, not just that. But also because of the warfare that we were doing specifically. And we could not just like basically.
We lost every major battle in the war almost. The only reason we ended up winning is because the British were fucking sick of sending troops all the way to fucking North America. That was it. It was if there wasn't a vast ocean, there wouldn't be this would be a British colony.
What is it? I'm pretty sure there were various battles the United States won. Significance battles.
Regardless, but I'm saying that in almost every engagement.
Let me finish. Because I know.
But in almost every engagement, the British soldier was better trained, better equipped, better outfitted, and had better nutrition, and they won the vast majority of the conflicts.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if that's true.
It's true.
I also don't think they won basically.
The militia, they couldn't get 2 shots out of the fucking militia.
Let me finish.
They couldn't get 2 shots out of the militia.
To my understanding, or to what I remember from reading in history, the way that warfare was carried out between the British and Americas was something that they were not necessarily used to because the American people at the time used what we would essentially modern day call like guerrilla warfare tactics.
That was highly ineffective.
No, guerrilla warfare is known for being super freaking effective.
It was not during that time period. Here's why. I'll explain to you why.
Can I just finish talking about guerrilla warfare for 1 second?
Even though in this particular case you brought up, it's not really a very good example.
But I'm not.
Oh, the Native Americans were great at guerrilla warfare too. What happened to them?
Yeah, no, but it seems like a lot of Native Americans died because of straight up disease more than anything else.
That's true. I agree.
It seems that when it comes to guerrilla,
I don't know about that seems. Can we make a committed statement?
Yes. Guerrilla warfare tactics are highly effective, especially against traditional militaries for a variety of reasons. The point that I'm trying to get at is that modern warfare is not even 100% like brute physical strength, even machine strength, not necessarily. Which I'm sure that we could agree that the Americans, at least in terms of like machinery, were much better equipped than the Viet Cong.
Nope.
Okay, well,
they were better equipped in some ways. They had helicopter tactics, but they also had
Agent Orange. They
also had M16A1s. These were invented by Eugene Stoner, and they didn't fucking work. And the Viet Cong and the Vietnamese running around with SKSs and AK-47s had an advantage for 2 years of the war because of that. So no, our weaponry was subpar. Going into the war from an infantry standard, we went from Thompsons to M16s. Terrible idea by Robert McNamara. That aside, you don't even know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing. No, let you nothing. You're going to listen for a second.
I am listening.
Because
you're just trying to.
I'm trying to explain to you what this. You brought this up.
No, but you're not letting me finish my freaking sentence. I was going to say.
Okay, well, when you're done then, say, I'm done, and then when I say 2 words, don't cut me off.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The point I'm trying to get across is that it seems a lot of guerrilla warfare tactics, especially when it comes to like, let's say modern day fighting, whatever, are highly effective. And the reason for that being is that the way that warfare seems to work, or it seems to work a lot of times, is that, hey, if you're able to catch your enemy by surprise, if you're able to use subverted measures, if you're able to basically, catch them off guard, there is a tactical advantage to that. So when you're talking about a society that's like, oh, let's say all the men now suddenly have the guns, are they going to be like able to enslave women for eternity? The answer is not necessarily, because there are subvertive methods of fighting back that do make it impossible for, I think, any one gender to have a long-term, forever, for 100% in the future, complete control.
Okay, then we'll limit it even. We'll limit it. Do you think that if the United States, all of the guns went over to the women, okay, and no men now had guns, none, okay? These are just gone. They wake up, their entire closet, all been magicked.
Lol Paladins donated $100. I won't let you besmirch the good name of Eugene Stoner. Absolutely nothing wrong with his rifle
there was
design.
An inception.
Blame the military for poor training if you must. Much like women, lubrication is key.
Nope, that's not true, Lol Paladins. They had the wrong ammunition for the gun, and there's a whole tale of it. You should read Robert McNamara's memoirs on it. He really fucked things up when it came to the distribution of the M16. But that aside, doesn't matter. Back to this. The question is, all women wake up, they have all the arsenal of all of the men in the United States. They're not looking to enslave them. They're going to take them all out. That's what they're going to do. They're going to take them all out. Versus the opposition of men collectively wake up one day in the United States and they're going to take out all the women. Do you think that women would be able to accomplish this?
I don't think either. Yeah, no, they wouldn't.
I think that men could accomplish it.
I don't think men could accomplish it.
Okay, so tell me what the barrier would be if men collectively woke up tomorrow with the weapons that they have available to them right now and decided to wipe every woman off the face of the United States. What would actually be the barrier there?
I think what would end up happening, God forbid, this is such a bleak scenario. You'd probably end up having a shit ton of women doing, or men, whichever one you want to do, essentially like using guerrilla warfare tactics to fight against the other half. So whether that means making like homemade bombs, whether that means, I'm not joking, the fucking Molotov cocktail, like
What do you think?
You don't have to laugh at me.
Do you think that women are going to be making pipe bombs in their kitchen while men are going walking around taking them all out?
No, I think if we're gonna create an absurd scenario where half of the population wants to actively kill the other population with guns, I think people are going to take extreme measures wherever they can to protect themselves and to fight against the other half.
So do you think that if men collectively had that will to do that, right? That's all they wanted to do was just take out the other sex, right? Would they accomplish that feat? Or do you think that women would have a good fighting chance?
I don't know about a good fighting chance, but I think that there is going to be a percentage. Well, I don't think it's going to be ever possible to completely holocaust the other gender, just because in terms of numbers.
Don't use that word. You know better than that.
Wait, no, I mean, you would be purposely eliminating.
Yeah, I know, but don't use the word. Just don't use the word. Use any other word but that word.
Was it because of TOS?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway. So I understand they want to G-word the other sex. I understand that you don't think that that's possible, but please engage with it.
Yeah, I'm even engaging hypothetically. I'm saying like even in these hypotheticals, I still think because of the amount of women and men there are.
Lol Paladins donated $100.
Yeah, I know.
If
I was
men
just about
wanted
to
to
get to the Middle
suppress
East in a
women,
second.
it's exactly what did happen in Afghanistan as soon the US left.
Yep,
took away their rights.
And there's nothing they can do
Islam
about it.
is right about women. Joking, maybe.
That's absolutely what happened. Whenever men have collectively decided to take away women's rights, they don't have rights anymore. That's it.
Okay,
and hang on.
Okay.
Before you make it's because, but long term, there could be social revolutions. I'm going to go ahead and agree. There could be social revolutions where you change men's mind. That's why I'm asking specifically about intent. Men's minds in this scenario can't be changed. They have decided you need to be a second-class citizen forever. And that's all they're ever going to think forevermore. What could women physically do about that?
So what I wanted to bring up, or what I'm going to bring up, is that now these scenarios have fundamentally changed. There's a difference between I'm going to try to G-word an entire population and I want them under my subservience.
Either way.
There's fundamental differences here.
Then engage with both. I don't care. It's going to be the same answer either way.
No, because the fundamental difference here is that when it comes to the second one, you are forcibly trying to keep women alive to have them be the second-class citizens.
Yeah.
That is the scenario where you end up with basically women, potentially, not always, but poisoning the shit out of men, essentially.
Oh, no.
Or finding subservient measures. Not subservient, subservient.
Oh, no, not a couple of poisoned men.
Not just a couple. I mean, there's a reason why it's hard to figure out the amount of women who are serial killers, and when we even find them, the number is like extremely high.
It's hard to find out the number of men, too.
Well, it's a lot easier because men tend to use, I guess, like the brute force tactics versus poisonings tend to be a lot harder.
We don't know how many men utilize poisoning, just like with women. We don't know.
That's fair. But the point is that when it comes to basically being subversive, trying to fight against systems of oppression, it doesn't always have to be done in terms of brute force. There are other measures that people can take, for example, poisoning, which can be very effective and can go a long time without being traced to help overtake status quos, or even more explicit methods, but the point is they're not up to your face, like guerrilla warfare.
So if the G-word, if the men decided to G-word all women tomorrow, and they have the monopoly on force just in its current state, okay? I would actually like to know if General Daisy, like John Connor from the ashes rose like a fucking Terminator, right? Terminator destroyer. And she's like, I'm going to lead you to victory. I'm going to teach you how to smash those metal motherfuckers into junk, right? General Daisy is the leader of the female army who's going to stop these fucking men from G-wording them. What would General Daisy do?
Yeah, to be clear, I don't think in such a society women will be able to overtake and put the status quo back in order. I think they would have to live basically the rest of their lives essentially like in hiding. Now
let's reverse the role.
Yeah, I think the same could be said with men.
Yeah, you think that, so here's what I would say. I would say that if all of the weapons, including the nukes, were handed over to women tomorrow collectively inside of the United States, and we had no access to any of that immediately, and women said, we're taking all the men out, I think we would win in 3 days.
Yeah, I think that's delusional.
Yeah, okay, well, let me tell you what I would base this on. Okay, so day one, I think that men would grab chair legs and bars and things like this, and they would literally just run straight force at a few women, beat the tar out of them, take their guns, and then they would just continue the slew. And I don't think women could do much about it. I don't think if women were even going house to house, they could do much about it. And here's why I think that. Because I've seen trained officer after trained officer, right, try to subdue, even with lethal force, with firearms, men, and watch them fail time and time and time again against just average guys. They're not going up against UFC fighters. They're going up against fat old dudes like me, losing time and time again. How is it possible that these highly trained women who have been learning all sorts of self-defense, subduance, tactics, all of this, are losing to just randos? No training, no nothing. It's the brute force category, right?
I think there's definitely cases where, women lose control, like what we stated before. I think there's also probably a vast more majority of cases where women are just either shooting or incapacitating the guy or killing him. So just because there's some examples of women losing control doesn't mean, again, as we've stated before, the vast majority
of female officers have a hard time subduing male suspects.
It's not that the point is the vast majority of women with a gun, even with like a male suspect or whatever, if they use a gun, the male suspect is going to be hurt.
No, even in the cases where they're in for the purpose of lethal force, they still often get subdued and have their firearms taken away from them.
What is the exact percentage? Because last time you said, or maybe I misunderstood what
I can pull up the exact percentages, but let us be highly charitable, and just say it's a lot more. A lot more could be 10%, let's say. It's probably way higher than that. I don't know off the top of my head, but you would at least agree it's got to be at least 10%.
Just for the sake of this argument, let's say 10%.
Yeah, it's at least 10% of them more than the men who get subdued. That's enough of an advantage. I mean, that's really all you would need is 10%.
Yeah, I also think...
Now, let's apply that also to the fact that most women, like you, couldn't tell me the process to even load a firearm. So even if their collective will was all to take out the men, I don't think most of these women could even use the guns that magically appeared for them.
I think what would most likely happen is that if women collectively decided to want to get rid of men, and this is so dark, I kind of don't, whatever, they would probably wait until men are most vulnerable a week, which would probably ideally be while they're sleeping. And I think...
they'd still lose.
Yeah, I don't think...
They'd still lose. But this is my point, right, is that even if we take what you're saying at face value, and that women could put up some kind of resistance, you have to agree that men overwhelmingly in this scenario would have a massive advantage in comparison to women in that scenario. If that is the case, then you are agreeing that when it comes to force doctrine, men are always going to be superior at it than women. The next thing that we just need to agree to...
from that.
What?
No, it doesn't follow. You're saying that just because, they might have a slight advantage at defending themselves, that means now men always have the advantage when it comes to force doctrine.
They always have the advantage when it comes to force doctrine. They're stronger. That's all you need.
No. But you're saying in terms of, if I'm talking about, like, again, pure physical strength, sure. But if we're talking about using, like, great equalizers,
yes, even great equalizers. We have a massive... Did you see what happened with Trump when the assassination? Did you see what the women did with their guns?
Okay, you're trying to use, like, emotional appeal to... Okay, but let's focus.
Okay, let's focus.
Okay. Literally, even if there is a slight advantage to be able to defend yourself if you're a man, whatever, the point is, for the vast majority of cases, the person with a gun wins. Just because you are 10%, whatever, more likely to defend yourself doesn't change the fact that 9 out of 10 times you're fucked.
Okay, backing up, you do agree with me that you have to at least know how to use a firearm?
Sure, but people have, what is it? You probably will injure yourself if you don't do it correctly. But yeah, like people...
And you agree that ammunition weighs a certain amount?
Yeah, but...
And you agree that guns weigh a certain amount?
Yeah, sure.
And you agree that you have to have some kind of equipment that you carry with you?
Yeah, but the point being is that even with all of that, this isn't like a John Wick movie, whatever. Most people, when they shot, they're down. So even with all those additional stuff,
you have to be able,
shoot you
have to be
you're
capable,
down, you're fucked.
You have to be capable. So guns can only work one-dimensionally. You have to be able to point it at the target and be competent enough with it to actually hit the target. It's not as easy to do as you think, by the way. And the question becomes, does physical strength give you a massive advantage in that category? And the answer is overwhelmingly yes, it does. And the thing is, the proofs of this are innumerable. Yeah, not just the military. Let's take a look at the military training standards. They have to consistently be lowered for women for everything from sharpshooting to accuracy to just basic infantry standards.
There's, again, still a vast difference, even with all of that into account, with a person who's armed and a person who's not armed at the end of the day. Obviously, it's very different if we're equally armed, but if we're not equally armed and the other person is not armed, yeah, like even in the cases where you might wrestle it out in time or whatever, the vast majority of the time, the person with a gun just wins.
So in this case, when you're saying force doctrine, you're saying that as long as women are armed sufficiently, they can have the monopoly on force.
I'm saying the monopoly on force doesn't rely on man or woman as much as it relies on who has weaponry.
Then why is it that all of the force jobs which exist are overwhelmingly men?
Yeah, we go back to a variety of different factors. One of them, men might be just more inclined or wanting to do those jobs. The other one being, some level of discrimination. The other one being, I guess those would be the two biggest ones.
And I could take that stigma argument, and I would even agree with it, except for this. Why do they have to keep lowering the standards in law enforcement for women and in the military for women for physical readiness? Why do they have to lower the standard across the board in prisons for female readiness? Why do they have to keep lowering the standards, lower standard, because they can't get enough women to qualify for the regular standards that men have to adhere to if it is just a matter of stigma?
Yeah, and what I was trying to say before is that just because an institution tries to lower the requirements, is trying to make it easier for women to be there, doesn't necessarily mean the stigma is erased, right? Stigma does not just come from an institution's rules. Stigma usually comes from the overlying societal pressure.
Yeah, but that would be proof that women could not adhere to the same standards as men when it came to physical readiness.
No, basically. Or let me phrase it this way. if I am, let's say we have a pool of women, right? And let's say only a minority of women. Let's say only 20% of women are capable of meeting those standards.
Women.
Within these 20%, chances are 18% won't even apply, and 2% will apply. And maybe from the other people who won't even make it, the other 80%, let's say 5% apply. Okay. Now you have more women who are applying, but they can't meet the standards. Very few who apply and can meet the standards. But the vast majority of women from both of these camps are just not applying at all because, hey, like, their family is not very into it. They're more like scared for them, or their family's more like, no, you should focus more on child rearing or doing this other thing. It would look better for you. Like, we would be happier if you did that. That's where you get like screwy numbers, essentially. I do agree the vast majority
for the lowering of the standards. Okay.
No, I'm saying societal pressure exists outside.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question.
What the fuck?
If there's a fire in your apartment, would you prefer that a 220-pound male firefighter came in?
Sure, I'm not disagreeing. Men are generally stronger.
Wait. Hang on. Or would you prefer that a 220-pound woman came in?
Oh. To my understanding, even with the same weight, it seems like men might have, like, what is it, muscular advantage?
Yeah, a huge advantage, right? So you would still prefer that it was the man.
Yeah, sure.
And would you prefer that the people who guarded you while you were asleep, by that same logic, were men or women?
Yeah, if we're talking about brute force.
And if you're saying that your military is the people who are guarding you while you're sleeping, you would prefer them to be men then, yes?
Generally speaking, we're talking about brute force.
So then you're saying that even in your preferences, you prefer that men have the monopoly on force to even protect you in the first place.
What I'm saying is that if it comes to brute force, obviously I would take the person who's stronger. So
which is almost always going to be the men. Not on average, on an overwhelming average.
Okay. But the point that I'm trying to explain here...
I don't want you to like underplay it and say, it's 51% to 49.
The point that I'm trying to explain here is that if I had to pick between like a 220-pound man and like a 5'5" woman with a gun, I'd pick the 5'5" woman with a gun.
But if you could pick between the 5'5" woman with a gun or 5'5" man with a gun, which would you pick?
Yeah, sure. I'll pick the guy with a gun.
Right.
I have one more question.
Hang on.
Saying that they're both exactly equal, right? Not one is... Because if the woman's more
I'm saying that
accurate,
they have equal training only.
Okay.
I'm not ruling out their physiology. That would defeat the purpose of the hypothetical.
Okay, because this is another, and I mean, there's like a bunch of like different studies here, and I know you said, it's because they're using the same type of rifle, which I'm assuming they're using the same type here, because then, what is it? That's where things get more complicated, because it becomes a question of who's a more accurate and faster shooter, essentially. Because that's who's going to win.
So you would prefer the woman?
If she's a more accurate and faster shooter.
Okay, so just so that we have, the man would still be stronger. You agree with that?
Sure, the man is stronger, but the woman's more accurate and faster.
So you would still go with the woman?
Bovier's Manslave donated $100. Pxie, name 2 philosophers not named Nietzsche, Derrida, Simone, Foucault, Marx, Sartre, Engels. That your free education grant asked you read. That you chose to read yourself. Hess isn't an answer.
Do you have a quick response to the TTS?
I can't read all the names that you described, but from the top of my head, I'm thinking Mills. I'm thinking, I don't know if you mentioned that. You could even go ancient, Socrates, Aristotle, if you want.
Of course, you went for the utilitarian first.
Yeah. That's
One quick thing. Andrew, you posed a question to Pxie that I don't think received a response and an answer. The question was, it was a jail scenario, I believe, where if it could be all men or all women correction officers. I don't think we got a response on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're in a jail and, like, I would not say batons are the same equalizer as a gun is, then
you don't have to use
obviously
batons.
guys.
You can have guns.
No. So the question was, if you could have an all-female or an all-male correction staff, which would you pick? And I think it was same exact training.
Same training, same weapons.
Same weapons.
They could be guns.
If you had to pick one, which would you pick?
There's plenty of prisons that use guns. And they don't even use batons hardly. They use guns.
Are they the same level of, again, this all goes back to me.
Random. They're just random correction officers who have the same exact training with weaponry, same exact training for control.
Okay. Just because you have the same exact training doesn't necessarily mean that you're at the same levels, or maybe you can quantify for this for me or whatever. Accuracy and speed, those are my number one concerns.
I'm going to even grant this and say that the women inside of this correctional facility with their firearms are more accurate than the men and slightly faster in the deployment of those firearms. You would pick the women?
Yes, and if the guys were more accurate and faster, because here's the deal, you could try, but if you're going to go after someone and try to take their gun, and they're a faster and more accurate shooter, good fucking luck, you know? Like, again, just like how this is in a John Wick movie, the vast majority of people, once you shoot them, are fucking down. That's just it. So my number one concern is accuracy.
Now, let me ask you this counter.
Yeah.
The prison inmates are very upset about the fact that there's a bunch of armed bitches running around this prison, and they're like, they are more accurate than the men, right? I don't know to what degree, but let's just say twice as accurate, and they're slightly faster than the men. And so the prisoners go, but we don't fucking care because they're a bunch of women and we're way stronger than them. Would it be easier for them to overpower those women, you think, than the men?
Well, the reason why I keep saying accuracy and speed is so important is because, yeah, they could try.
Well, I mean, how accurate do you need to be point blank with a gun? Not very accurate, right?
Yeah, but if they're basically, my concern about speed is just like, yeah, good luck wrestling the gun away if the person just kills you.
And you think even in that scenario, that women would have the advantage over less accurate and less fast shooters than women would inside of a prison environment?
Yes, I think the number one when it comes to guns, if you're accurate, fast enough, nobody's going to be
And how much easier would it be for men then to overpower those women?
Yeah, I think it would be substantially harder because they would just
Because
die.
they're just so quick, right?
Yeah, because they were, yeah, we're
Even though they're only slightly faster than the men
Oh, no,
would
you
be.
said, what is it? Or did you say
They're way
accuracy
more
was
accurate,
twice?
but they're only slightly quicker.
Okay.
But even if we doubled their speed, do you realize when you quantify this, that what you're talking about is reloading a magazine from 3 seconds to 6 seconds? That's speed, right? That's speed. When you're talking about accuracy, you're talking about the difference between hitting here and hitting there, which who gives a shit? Who cares if I hit your button or I hit you in the neck? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The men are clearly going to have an advantage over the women in every aspect of this scenario. Whether you give them melee weapons, you give them normal guns, it wouldn't matter if they were less trained than the women. Just the physical strength component of it alone is going to give them an advantage over women.
It's, again, you can be a 6'6", buff beefcake, whatever. If I have a gun and I shoot you before you can reach me, you're going to go down.
You do realize that men are less likely to go down than women are, especially if you shoot, even if you're shooting them center mass.
The vast majority of people...
You don't need the vast majority, you only need a few.
Okay. The reason why I say the vast majority is because I'm saying, like, on average, even a guy like that, most people, on average, are not going to be able to withstand a gunshot and keep going. It's not the John Wick movie.
Now, let me ask you this. You can invest in 2 prisons. You can invest in 2.
Okay.
Prison 1, they're going to hire female security or female, prison guards. Those female prison guards are going to fit this criteria. Yes, they're going to be far less strong than their male counterparts, okay? But they have been tested on the range, and on the range we have determined they do reload quicker, and they are more accurate with shot placement than the men. And we're going to give them all guns. They're going to guard the facility, all right? All females. Another one, it's all males who have slightly lesser standards, like I said, or even significant. They're way less accurate. When they're aiming here, they hit you there instead. And instead of a 6-second reload, you know what I mean? They have a 12-second reload speed, okay? And you can invest your life savings, but only in these 2 options. Would you invest it in the female prison or the male prison?
One more question. I'm sorry I'm being so specific about this. It just
Sure,
does
go
matter.
ahead.
In the earlier one, you said, they're less likely to respect a woman, so they're more likely to revolt. Is this a case here too?
Well, no, I'm only giving you these qualifiers.
Okay.
And the qualifiers are, it fits your criteria. The all-female guards who are going to be guarding the most horrific rapists, murderers, and lunatics that you can think of. But they're all going to be armed. And it's going to be the same exact weaponry that the men have in a counter prison, in this hypothetical. In this case, the women do reload swiftly, right? They can pull the trigger even faster than the men can. And their shot placements are above par of their male counterparts.
Yeah, I'll go with a woman. I'm always going to put...
You would invest your money in the female prison.
Yes, I'm going to put my money where whoever is more accurate and faster. Because good luck being as buff as you want if I get to shoot you twice or even once in most cases before you get at me, you know?
Now, do you agree that women, for these jobs, you mentioned stigma, for a job like a prison inmate, would you agree that female prison guards for the same work probably make a slightly lesser wage?
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, probably. So then how come somebody doesn't just make an all-female prison with these categories where they could pay these women way less wage?
Well, I think what we were probably describing before, I think maybe I'm wrong, but to my understanding, like they usually don't want people to result into lethal force, right? We're talking about like in the examples you gave me, at least my
What do
understanding.
you mean? There's prisons all over the world where they only use guns.
I thought we were talking about the United States, but even I thought we were
Even in
talking
the
about
United States,
Even
there
the
are
United
maximum
States.
security prisons
Yeah.
where there's guys on the walls with guns. Yeah.
Okay, let me phrase it this way. When you gave me the original scenario, what I'm thinking is, okay, like inmates are trying to escape, whatever.
Yeah, they would be trying to escape in these scenarios too. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. In real life, usually, well, first of all, usually I would say probably more men are applying. I don't think women are very interested in being female guards.
Yeah,
in
sure.
high
They're not
security
interested. That's why
prisons.
they're selecting. They're selecting from this group, right?
Yeah. I'm saying, like, you're asking me, why doesn't this play out in real life? And I'm saying, like, okay, well, in real life, there's a couple of things. There's not that many women interested.
Bovia's manslave donated $100. Answer, what is an R? Have you ever shot? What is the deadliest gun available? I trained with a judo Olympian who refused to train with men. No lethal force. Have you trained? Are you more educated on it?
Anyways, I'm not trained. We've established that I'm not shooting people. Regardless, back to the original question that you're saying about the guards. Why doesn't this happen in real life? Okay, well, not as many women are interested. That's
Yeah, I know,
partially
but
the
we're
reason.
selecting from a pool who are interested.
Yeah, I'm saying
And
that
you could
probably,
definitely staff a prison with the selection of what is interested. That definitely fits the criteria that you put from the
Really?
click. Yeah, why couldn't you?
Because I don't think.
Why couldn't you go all around the United States to select for these guards, right? And say, okay, we'll pay you a big bonus to come relocate over here, and you can be in this all-female prison.
Just trying to go on that massive hunt across the United States prisons to find the women who are the top caliber of shooting and accuracy.
Seems like a brilliant financial move.
No, it seems awful financially.
Why?
Because just a startup cost alone.
That's what all companies do this. All companies scour the world for talent. Google scours the world for talent.
Okay, yeah, Google.
Why wouldn't a prison system do the same thing?
A multi-billion-dollar company is very different than your local prison system, who's also trying to just probably cut
If I could
costs.
staff tomorrow
And also-
an all-female force, right, that I knew for sure I could pay less money than the male counterparts in a similar business around me, I'd be raking it the fuck in. What are you talking about?
First of all, I don't think it would be substantially enough. The level that you'd be paying them less would be enough to overset the onset startup cost of finding these women.
The highest
to begin
cost in a
with.
business is payroll.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there's startup costs. You know, like a startup. Like,
Yeah, that's what investors are for. They're looking at the long game, 25 years. They're not going to get a dime back for 25 years. What do you mean?
Yeah, and these people also, it would not just be a one-time startup cost because women would obviously leave, and you're trying to find not just any woman, you're trying to find the top caliber woman.
No, not the top
Yeah,
caliber.
we
All we're
established.
trying to do is find women who generally, right, can reload their weapons faster and do better shot placement than the women or than the men. There's got to be millions of those.
Yeah, no. Well, here, first of all, I don't know how many of those are prison guards. First of all, as we've established before, I said, oh, the number is probably like pretty low.
Oh, there's tons of female prisons worldwide. Tons.
Yeah, but how many prison female guards?
Well, I mean, how many would you need? Let's say you needed 100. Like, he couldn't find 100?
Yeah, I think you would have to literally, again, as I stated before, spend a shit ton of money scouring for
You
talent
have to,
across the
you have to
United
do that if
States.
it's all men.
What? No, I don't think most pure prisons are looking for top caliber men to be prison guards.
What are they looking for?
They're looking for people who meet the basic requirements.
Which is that? They're fucking strong, right?
That they can, yeah, that they can
That they can
shoot or
manhandle
whatever.
inmates and that they can deal with the rigors of a prison. In your
Sure.
case, you would staff your entire prison with women. Even if we gave them these characteristics, it seems like you're just trying to avoid the idea that even if you could find them with these characteristics and bring them in, right, and pay them less money, how would that be a bad financial decision? You've already invested your life savings in such a prison.
No, because the reason why is because I'm telling you the startup cost alone of finding those women. And you're saying like this would have to be like a continuous thing, so people would be dropping out, coming back in.
Oh no,
whatever.
every business ever.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think in general, unless if you're a multi-billion-dollar company like Google, you should be spending a significant amount of your resources scouring for like a number one talent or
Let's
whatever.
say you could get state funding. It's going to be a small prison. It only requires 10 male guards on staff day and night. So you're rotating just 20 people. That's it. Okay? But the state they want you to house the worst of the worst, so they're giving you a larger stipend than they are anywhere else.
Yeah,
If
I
that
would
is the
still-
case, and you could cut down in your private prison the payroll cost, you can't revolve 20 fucking women?
I think what is it when you're acting as, first of all, the pay gap is so like exponentially huge, which I don't necessarily think is the case. I think there might be a pay gap. I don't think it's
Well,
necessarily.
then this
that
idea of
big.
you not going into it because of the stigma also is reduced immediately.
Yeah, it's reduced. No, it's reduced a pool of possible applicants. Let's start there.
Not much. If it's just a tiny pay gap, right?
Well, because there's a difference, as I've stated before, between let's say an institutional stigma versus a social stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a job that still pays pretty well. It doesn't necessarily take away the social stigma of being part of that job.
Yeah. So
Like, let's use garbage people.
Yeah, I
for
just want
example.
to make sure. Let's use garbage people.
Yeah, so when it comes to like garbage, let's say specifically like garbage men in New York,
Mm-hmm.
they get paid really well. They get paid like bank. But I would say that in our society, we don't really value people who pick up garbage. I don't think that should be the case. I think those people are very necessary and vital for our society to survive.
Are there a bunch of female garbage men?
I don't think it matters. The point that I'm trying to get across here is that it's a clear example of something that can pay very well,
Mm-hmm.
but still has a social stigma attached to it.
Okay, but wouldn't that be a social stigma for men and women?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because what I'm trying to get across here is that you're saying, oh, look at this example. Like, you see they're paying
Yeah,
well.
I'm not really sure that there's a huge social stigma against garbage men, honestly.
I think
I really don't think so. I don't think anybody's like, oh, your dad is. I don't think so. I don't think so.
know. I
don't think there's a big social stigma.
I think there's usually, I think in
I think that
general-
women aren't garbage men because they don't want to fucking do that job and it's physically laborious.
I think
and
most
women
people
don't want to do.
Most people don't want to.
The most people don't want to do physically laborious jobs. I think you're gonna have to back that up because as it turns out, men when they're polled on this actually do enjoy physically laborious jobs, and that's why they gravitate towards them. The idea that kind of the socialists like you on the left say, nobody wants to do a physically intensive job. Actually, there's quite a few people who only want to do physically intensive jobs. jobs. They get bored at a desk. They don't like working inside. Any number of different reasons.
The point is that our society, and hopefully we can just agree on this, doesn't really value physical labor maybe as much as it should.
Yeah, I think it does. I think maybe women don't.
I don't think.
Maybe women don't value it because they don't do any of those jobs, so they don't know how valuable they are.
I think if that was the case, you would see a lot
return
of
to the trades, which we're seeing overwhelmingly.
Yeah,
that you would see tons of men gravitating towards more of the trades job, which are now doing overwhelmingly.
First of all, I don't know about the word overwhelmingly. Second of all, I think you would see like basically their pay to be that or equal that of like CEOs essentially, or
What?
scientists, or doctors, or lawyers.
Yeah, electricians are making pretty close to what scientists are making.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
It is true. In fact, if you look at nurses
Okay.
often will make pretty close to what like a social scientist might make, or close to what a university scientist might even make. They may not get tenure to make something similar. Master electricians, they make often what nurses.
I know what is it.
Yeah.
I know that there's certain physical labor jobs that are getting paid very well right
Trade
now.
jobs.
Yeah, trade jobs.
All trade jobs.
I don't know about all trade jobs, but even if I grant that, two things. Again, there is still a stigma that is hopefully changing. The stigma is still kind of there,
From
though.
who?
Second of all,
From men?
not from both men and women, honestly.
I don't think there's a big stigma towards the trades from men,
I think
since men are the ones who are doing all the
this
trades.
is a class thing, honestly. I think it is like a class sort of thing, not even like men versus women. I think there is some level of upper society that views getting your hands dirty as a dirty thing.
No,
I'm
I
not
think
saying it
that
should be.
women
I'm
will
just saying
often
it
consider
is.
themselves in prestigious jobs that aren't particularly prestigious, and will often I think that
Yeah,
the stigma
I think-
towards the trades comes from females who look down on the trades, not because I don't think men are looking down on the trades.
There's a good amount of CEOs and other. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like you keep making this a man and woman thing, and I just think honestly it is a class-based thing. I also think across
But
the
you
world.
said that women are moving towards prestigious jobs.
Yeah, I think both men and
So isn't that boosting them up in the class in their own mind?
class dynamics are very complicated.
You say that a lot. You say it's complicated, it's
society's
dynamic, it's
complicated.
multifaceted.
Yeah,
But no,
absolutely.
yeah. I think society is complicated, but I think most ideas can be reduced to singular core principles or singular core things which the idea expands from. And what I think happens here a lot is you say it's complex, it's multifaceted, there's a lot of factors here as a mode of obfuscation, ultimately.
trying to obfuscate.
I think you
I
don't
just
want to
think
answer.
there's,
So
like,
like,
a
for
lot of
instance,
things.
when you say, I would invest my life savings in that female prison.
didn't say
Hang
life
on,
savings.
yeah, that was the question.
Okay.
I said, between these two prisons, would you invest your life savings in this one or that one if you only had the choice between the two? You say the woman's prison. I actually don't believe you. I literally don't
Okay.
believe you. It's not believable to me that you would say that.
You don't have to believe me. From my perspective and point of view, when it comes to that example, I specifically specified, to me, it depends on speed and accuracy.
Yeah.
Going back to the trade jobs, I also think when we look globally, yeah, most people in, let's say, like, let's use China, for example, who are working hard labor jobs are not getting paid very well. Most people globally who are doing hard, labor jobs are not getting paid very well. I think part of the reason why these jobs have historically, not anymore, hopefully it's changing for the better. I agree that they should be more respect labor is labor. Call me a socialist hippie, I don't care. Part of the reason for this is because for a long time, it was seen as something that anybody can learn. Anybody can learn a trade if they really want to, whatever. Now, we've moved so much to a service society that not as many people are learning how to do that labor. So that creates a higher demand for that labor because there's not as much people who are willing to supply that because they can't. But I still don't think the stigma has completely reversed or changed. I think that there are more people talking about how those jobs should be valued, which I agree with. But I still think that the vast majority of people are told, you go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college.
But I mean, that's being pushed towards women, the female dynamic.
I think, what is it? A lot of men.
Most women are. It's if you look at the vast majority of college graduates, it's women, right?
Yeah.
So the reason for this is because women are the ones who are being appealed to go to college. Men are often appealed to go into the trades. This is why this is further evidence, by the way, that kind of this social stigma that you're talking about is coming down from women, not coming down from men. Men are being encouraged to go into trades. Women are the ones who are being encouraged to go to college and waste their fucking time getting a degree in basket weaving.
I promise you that there is no son of any CEO or any super high-paying person in power who's telling their son, like, oh, go do a trade instead. They're being taught to essentially take over the family business.
Ulysses the Pagan donated $100. Prisons have had multiple prison riots over the decades. Many cases the all-male correctional officers were overwhelmed. Local state enforcement and military were brought in. Women would fare better.
Under her logic, they would, yeah.
No, I think, again, as I stated before, we were talking about like top echelon of people. I don't think the average all-woman prison facility versus
No, that
average.
wasn't the criteria.
Yeah, that's why I specifically. No, I
Nope,
specifically.
your criteria was 2 things. What was the criteria?
It was speed and accuracy.
That's not the highest echelon of women.
Okay.
All they would need to do is have an advantage over the men in this criteria.
Yeah,
for
I don't
this
think
one
the
thing.
average. I don't think the average prison guard woman is more faster, more or accurate than the average
I don't
guy.
think that that would be the deciding requirement on being able to run a prison nor quell any prison riots. Would they be that they reloaded faster and shot you here instead of there? I don't think that those are significant markers.
I think the reason why
The significant marker, I think, is physical
the
strength.
reason why I bring up speed is not just reloading speed. It's shooting you speed. It's me pulling the gun or the trigger fast enough before you get to me.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think that physical strength is going to be the dominant power here. And the reason that physical strength is going to be the dominant power is because even if you have a gun, if 4 guys are coming at you, even if you're really quick, Wyatt Earp, okay, they can over-fucking-whelm you very quickly. Men fare very, very good in those scenarios. Women very bad. And you also have an additional incentive, which is that a lot of those prisoners in this prison you would invest in would want to do what thing to all those female prison guards?
That's why when we brought up the example again, I specifically asked you, is it still the case or is it the case that the women are seen as like catty bitches essentially?
Yeah,
with less
and what I
respect?
granted to you
My
was
bullet
I'm only giving you
donated
the 2 qualifiers.
$100.
The
Ladies,
only 2
looking for a
qualifiers.
career change? Are you fast and accurate with a pew? I'm Pxie and join me and my new business venture in alternative correctional facilities.
Only prisoners, yeah.
Show us what you got.
So I granted everything. You said that there was just these 2 criteria, so I gave you only the 2 criteria.
that's why I'm
When you
confused.
asked for,
That's why I'm confused.
Stop. Let me finish. Asking me for additional qualifiers has nothing to do with anything.
No,
We're saying that they're going to be still females. They're just going to fit the 2 qualifiers that you have.
Yeah, that's why I'm confused when the person said the comment and then you were like, oh, what else do men want to do with women? Because in the example that we were talking about, you specifically stated no, like the only thing that matters here, like there's no additional factor.
No.
So
No.
maybe I misunderstood what you said then.
These are still females. Everything else is equal between how females would be treated in prison and how men are treated in
Exactly,
prison.
so they don't-
Minus these
And I
2
have
criteria. I was very clear and
$100.
specific about that.
Just a sec.
Pxie isn't taking force escalation into account. Men will be better equipped to prevent escalation into a shooting because they have more tools in the toolbox. Female cops tend to go straight to gun.
Yeah, but we can just grant it. Because when we grant it and we show that she's only compensated for these 2 things, which is speed and accuracy, we left everything else equal.
Yeah.
I gave it all to you.
That's why-
so what you say instead is, okay, so even knowing that it's equal, meaning every other criteria of a woman would still exist, which is what I put in the hypothetical, you still would have invested your life savings in this female prison because
Andrew,
of only these 2 criteria.
I specifically asked you if it was the case that, the prison men, whatever, didn't respect the women or viewed them as catty bitches, and you said no, they're treated the same as the guys. Like, I'm granting you that they're like equal in all those senses except the speed and accuracy.
No, they're equal in all of their training.
Okay, so it's not the case, to clarify, that the inmates respect the women the same way they respect the men. You're saying that's not the case.
I'm just only granting you these 2 things, which is you want speed and
Okay,
accuracy.
so you're saying-
and you would invest your life savings
Okay,
based on those 2 criteria.
I'm confused because earlier you said
think you're
everything
just
is equal.
obfuscating
No,
me.
I'm not obfuscating. I feel like you're no. I feel.
Do
I
we need
know
to play
you're
it back again?
obfuscating.
Do you need to
Well,
give me
no.
dinner tomorrow too?
You're literally jumping back and forth. I'm trying to ask a clarifying question, and then you're.
I don't know how else I can clarify this. All other criteria are completely equal
So
to how it would
if
be
you're
viewed in
saying-
modernity,
if you're
minus
saying-
2 attributes. Stop. Minus 2 attributes. The 2 that you demanded.
Yeah, if you're
speed
saying
and
all
accuracy.
criteria is equal, then you're also saying the way that the
That's
inmates
not
are
what I
treating
said.
the
That's why you got to talk less. You got to talk less.
You
And
do not
here-
have to say all criteria are
No,
equal.
I
Can
said,
we go back a minute,
stop,
please?
Pxie. I said all criteria are equal as to that in general society. You only heard part because you can't shut up long enough to listen. Stop talking. Stop. Let me finish. Everything is equal to how it would be in general society with men and women, minus however they're viewed, right? By anybody at any time in any given arena. It's equal to that now, minus these 2 attributes. That's it.
Okay.
I was very clear about that. And you're just
Can
kind of
you
wanting
not-
to change the scenario
No,
now.
I'm not. I'm trying to understand what your scenario
Oh,
exactly
yeah.
is.
It's just too complex.
No, because you're using.
How many attributes do we have?
Your wordplay is literally jumping
How
around
many
everywhere.
attributes do we have that we're looking at?
You're saying that there's 2. So
2.
you're saying all else is equal. Yes or no?
No. Well, no. When I say all else is equal to what?
All else is equal to those 2 attributes.
Nope.
To general
Nope.
society?
To general society.
Okay, you did not say
Yes.
general society before.
We're
You
only
said
looking
you're
at
granting
2
me,
attributes,
Yeah,
Pxie.
you're saying you're granting me everything except the 2 attributes that we're changing, and now you're going back and saying no, general society.
No, I'm granting you that there's the same women, they're the same
okay.
everything.
People
the
can rewatch,
only
and they can
distinction.
jump back and forth and see
I have
what
said
you
these
said.
2 attributes 50 times. These are the only differences.
Yes, can you understand how it might be confusing when
No.
you say these are the only 2 differences? And
Yeah,
then when I ask
the
you,
only 2
Yeah, and then when I
differences.
ask you for clarification, if men and women are being treated equally, you're saying, oh no, the only 2
First
differences
of all,
are the accuracy and speed.
your clarification came post question. That's 1. And 2, here's the thing. You already already answered it before you asked for the clarifier.
No.
You had already answered it.
That's
But
why I
the thing
asked for
is-
the clarifier,
So let's
because I
do
was
it. So let's do it
confused.
again. Let's do it again. These are the 2 attributes that you want to see. Those are the only 2 that matter to Pxie. Yes or no? Because you said
No,
yes.
I said
No,
we're saying
okay.
if everything else is equal, if men and women are being viewed equally the same, treated equally the
man.
same, and the only difference is that the women are faster and more accurate, then that's a different answer versus, oh no, the men and women are still viewed differently. They're viewing the women as
so
tiny
all of the
bitches.
men inside of this prison, right?
Yes.
They want to kill
Okay.
all of the men, and they want to kill all of the women. Doesn't matter who's guarding them. They want to kill them and get out.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Both sides.
Okay.
Okay. There. We got that clear?
Okay.
Repeat it back to me.
You're saying the prisoners in either scenario want to just kill and get away.
They want to kill them and they want to get away. That's all they want to do. They're going to
Okay.
plot it. They're going to do whatever they need to do that. Okay. The 2 attributes. We have the 2 attributes. The women have an edge on those attributes. Okay.
Okay.
One of them, they're much better. Their shot placement is not here, right? It's much more centered. Okay, and the men are kind of hitting all over the place inside
at all.
of something like this. No, they still hit, but they're hitting all over.
Okay.
Their group is much wider.
The
Okay?
reason- okay.
However, these women are much quicker and they are much more accurate. We have the 2 attributes. We know now what the prisoners view them as. You have everything. Which prison are you investing your life savings in if you had to invest it in one?
No, I have an additional question I just thought
Of course you
no,
do.
I'm not. This is not mean to be bad. This is
Total. Okay, it's not
Okay,
meant to.
no, fine.
Go ahead. What is it? What's the question?
okay. They're usually linked, but not always. Stamina.
Uh-huh.
Do the men have more stamina, or do the women have
What's
more
meant by
stamina?
stamina?
If after shooting 5 times or whatever, it's harder for the women to keep. They're basically their accuracy.
No, as
speed
it
go down.
turns out, they're still women. Yes, they are still women. So they have the same on average stamina that a normal prison guard woman would have. But they are indeed faster with their guns. They do indeed have better shot placement with their guns. But they are still women, unfortunately, in this scenario. And yes, the prisoners want to escape, right? They just want to get rid of these guards and go. Okay, that's what you know.
Okay.
Before you're investing, which prison are you investing in?
Okay, now this becomes a math problem. My first instinct is still accuracy and speed, but if you're saying their stamina is significantly lower than the men, then now I'm leaning more towards the men, just because it would be really bad if the scenario. Well, the scenario would eventually become their stamina would affect their speed and accuracy, essentially, because it's hard to do the same action over and over again if you're losing stamina, essentially. So if they had similar levels of stamina, obviously, as I thought the original question was, only speed and accuracy were changed, then speed and accuracy would still win. But if you're telling me the stamina is significantly lower than the person who has
So they're
more
women?
stamina. No, I would
They're
say
women. But wait, I thought as long as the women could shoot better and were faster, that's what you really cared about. Because all that matters is when the bullet hits,
Yes.
they're down.
Yes.
Then why? So
Because
then
the
are
difference
we going
is-
to go ahead and invest in the
Let's
woman's
start
savings or
dying
not?
more. The reason why I bring up stamina now, or the reason why it's as important, is it because if you have,
I thought all that was important is that the bullet hit them.
yes, that is the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
But
Speed and accuracy.
yes, but here's the deal.
Okay.
Here's the only scenario where that would change.
Okay.
If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's pretend this is 10 men. This is not 10 men, but
Okay.
let's pretend. Let's say you have 10 men.
We got 10 men.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the person shooting, right?
Uh-huh.
But let's say after the 4th man, they're too tired to continue shooting.
Uh-huh.
Then they're fucked, basically,
Okay.
essentially.
So which one are we investing in?
So if you're telling me the men are less accurate and less fast, but their stamina could take over all the other guys,
I didn't say
essentially?
that. I said that these are just going to have the normal stamina of a female prison guard, normal stamina of a male prison guard.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna assume that the normal stamina of the guy is more than the normal stamina of
That
the woman.
seems like a safe assumption.
Okay, then I would say the guy.
So which prison are you investing in?
The male one.
The male one. Okay.
If the stamina is that much significantly more important.
So then,
Unless-
so then men are, even if the women are more
Wait.
accurate and
No.
can shoot better, you still would invest in the male prison because they're still going to be better prison guards overall.
The only problem I can see is it doesn't matter how much stamina you have if your accuracy is shit.
Oh yeah. So which one? Again?
Well, no, it's a fucking math problem. That's a problem. That's where you have put me at. I would literally have to like sit down. I'm not even joking. I would have to sit down. I would have to look at the average staminas. I would have to look at like the prison inmates themselves essentially, and I'd literally have to figure out. a
Okay, that's fair.
calculation.
What would your intuition tell you right now based on the information you have?
My intuition would say that, hey, if their stamina and they're, let's say, fairly competent or whatever, then I would go with the guys because they have more stamina. But again, if in this scenario they have stamina but their accuracy is shit, then I would go with a woman because if your accuracy is shit, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of stamina. If somebody gets
So
a
here's
fucking
the
gun from
knowledge
you,
that
you're
you have.
fucked.
These are women. These are men. You can make whatever assumptions you want from there, but you do know for sure that the women can shoot better and they have much tighter groups. They're faster and they can shoot with more accuracy. You can put your life savings in one. Which one would you put it in?
Okay. I'm going back and forth. It's a math problem. I would say right now I'm going with stamina as the number one thing because it doesn't matter how accurate and fast you are.
So we're going with the men.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Is that right?
For now, yeah.
Okay, so you think that men, even if women can shoot better and are faster, still would have an advantage?
What do you mean? Okay, you're saying, with the, what is it? Female prison guards or whatever.
Yes, they would have an advantage even then.
Okay, are you talking about, male guard versus woman guard? Or are you talking about male prisoner?
I'm talking about okay, so we're not going to obfuscate anymore. I don't know if you need to take an Adderall pill, but I've been super clear. So we have two attributes, right? 1 and 2 are our attributes, okay? We know only that you have males in one prison who are going to guard it and females in the other prison who are going to guard it. Okay, but you do only know that these two attributes, 1 and 2, those two attributes for the women are going to be superior than that of the men. In some cases, significantly superior. Okay, in the case of speed, it's going to be significant difference.
Last question, what's the ratio of prison guard to person?
I do have to move this on soon.
Okay.
So if you
Whatever
guys
the
can
average is, let's
try
say 6 to 1.
Then yeah, accuracy and speed.
Accuracy and speed. Now let's say it's 20 to 1.
Stamina.
Okay, now let's say it's 100 to 1.
Stamina.
Stamina again.
Yes.
Okay, so if you had a 100 to 1 ratio of prison guard to prisoner, or 50 to 1, you would still take the men.
If the stamina.
Even though we've created now many more targets, right? So I guess speed and accuracy is not our most important attribute, but strength also.
It becomes basically essentially like math problem. Like if we're just doing 1-to-1 essentially speed.
So
and
your
accuracy
intuition though
matters
says
more.
you would invest in the male prison, right?
If the population is large enough, then yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, when it comes to force doctrine, even if we take your 2 criterion for guns, turns out, not really the truth that that's your real criterion here for force doctrine, is it?
Because, no.
I'm sorry, I do have to move it on a little bit. We have been on the topic for a long time. We do have a super chat here from Paul James. OMG, I'm losing brain cells listening to her argument. Something that goes round and around like a merry-go-round, dumb down your ego, stop arguing, it makes no sense. Always trying to an escape, stop talking, king, and listen. Okay, thank you, Paul James. Appreciate your super chat. Now, I did have a question for you, Pxie. So, you're a feminist. You believe in equality. What are your thoughts on the
Buying the In-N-Out later. What are your thoughts on the buying?
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, are you gonna hold your bet?
You didn't.
Wait,
Okay.
I can actually also, we can give you an out here. For the rest of the show, we have an In-N-Out hat. You don't have to buy us In-N-Out if you wear the hat for the rest of the show.
That seems fair.
Is that a fair compromise?
I don't think I owe the In-N-Out. I kind of do want to see the hat, though.
There's also I think there's a...
Doesn't owe the In-N-Out.
There's a Dunce
Definitely
hat,
owe
too.
the In-N-Out. Or the In-N-Out. You definitely owe it. So,
Honestly.
sorry.
You guys did make a bet, didn't you?
Yeah,
Totally.
he said
And I won.
physical application, and I was literally physical application
Andrew, you want
engineering.
to grab that?
Physical
In-N-Out hat?
engineering.
You said
but-
physical application.
You want to grab that
engineering.
In-N-Out? I think you would look good, honestly, in the
With the
In-N-Out
In-N-Out,
hat.
I'm down.
You want to just grab it really quick? It's right next to the fedora. So it's like white. It's just white paper. You'll see it. It's right by the Game Boys. No. Yeah, that one right there. Perfect. Boom.
I'll do it for the memes.
For the memes. You don't have to wear. I mean, you don't have to wear for the whole show, but
The In-N-Out
look at that.
prison.
Boom.
Ready for duty.
Look at your future, Pxie.
Looks good. All right.
It kind of matches. I look like a sailor a little bit right now.
That's a good look. It's a good look. So really quick. So currently the state of affairs when it comes to the selective service system, the draft, men are required to register for the selective service. Women are not. What are your thoughts on this?
That's fucked up. I don't think men should be required to be drafted.
Well, assuming in a country where the draft would not be able to be legislated away, the government will never relinquish its right to draft from its citizenry. Do you think then that women should also be drafted?
Yes, but
And would that be equality and equity?
I guess I'm indifferent, honestly. I think what is it? I don't think anybody should be drafted. I know you're saying in a system where you have to either pick one or the other, and then the other option is essentially gone. And then yeah, I'd rather have both men and women have essentially like equal suffering in that respect. I guess I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Would you assume that in such a system where a draft was there, that men would still be deployed into combat situations far more than women would, even if women were to get drafted?
Probably because what is it? I don't know. Because if you're saying in such a society or whatever, we would assume
Like this one. If we had a draft tomorrow, where then...
Yeah, I think men would probably be picked more. I think part of an example of how like people think that the patriarchy doesn't negatively affect men, and I think it does in certain ways. And I think this is like one of the ways where men are expected and essentially like burdened to have or have like these like basically expectations of having to protect always, even in the detriment of their own life. And I don't think it's fair for the government to be able to dictate that in such a way. So
I mean, aren't men going to make better soldiers?
To me, it's not a question about whether men make better soldiers or not. To me, it's a question about should the government have a right to put your life on
Yeah,
the
but
line.
we're assuming they have the right.
Yeah,
Like,
well-
for instance, you don't really believe that. Like, the United States was attacked, right? you don't think that the government shouldn't be able to draft its citizens to repel attack?
I don't think, what is it? I think it has to be
Then how do you have a nation?
volunteer basis, like essentially.
Yeah, but if you don't have enough volunteers and your country is being attacked, you think that...
Then your country doesn't deserve to survive if not enough people are willing to take up arms against a foreign predator.
Yeah, but I mean, you do realize that if you were to take volunteer service, for instance, if you have a draft, you can recall people who have been in the armed forces, who have some training that you can immediately deploy versus brand new, fresh-faced people who then you have to train.
I guess, let me rephrase it. What I'm assuming we're talking about here is a mandatory draft. So it's, I pick you, you have to go, and if not, the government will punish you.
Yeah, that's true. But that would also include, as a subset, people who have former military training.
Yeah, I think we should differentiate. I think if the former military...
Yeah, but it's an entailment. You can't differentiate. It's entailed.
If those people want to go and fight for the country, great, awesome. I don't think you should force those people to
Yeah, that's great, but that's not the question. The question is not whether or not you think that that should happen. The question is, if you have a draft, the entailment of having a draft is that people who have formerly served are going to get drafted.
Okay, how is that a question?
Okay, that's an entailment. I need you to agree that that's an entailment of that. Because earlier you were saying that it wasn't. So I just want to make sure it is.
What do you mean by entailment? Please clarify.
It means that if you're drafting everybody, then the pool of people who have formerly served will also get drafted.
Okay, that's not a question.
No, it's an entailment. So I just asked you to acknowledge the entailment.
Okay, yes, they will draft people who had former experience.
Yes, okay. So if you're going to do a draft, right, the logic behind it also would be that you can then call up soldiers quickly who have had some kind of training.
Sure.
Yeah, so then if you're only dealing on a volunteer basis, a volunteer force, and your country's attacked by a much larger force, then wouldn't you want the systems in place for conscription so that you could quickly field men into battle, starting with people who have former military experience to stave the enemy off as you train new soldiers?
You can create a system where those people are basically on standby or reserve, so then...
Yeah, but if it's voluntary, it would defeat the purpose of conscription.
What is it? I mean, again, I don't think the draft should be a thing. I think we can have a system in place, or let's call it draft light, whatever you want to call it, where people volunteer their services in case there is such a situation. But I don't think you should be able to force an individual ever, under any circumstances, to put their life on the line for the government.
Well, no, for their own nation.
I don't think, I think oftentimes...
Like, for instance, you realize governments can be subverted, for instance.
Yeah, I realize governments can be
And you realize
subverted.
that inside of this type of subversion, you can have, like, surprise attacks nobody's prepared for, right? You can have all sorts of different things happen where you would need to call up soldiers very, very quickly, whether they wanted to go or not.
Yes. I think in the history of the United States, most of the time it is not necessarily a surprise attack like that.
So
yeah,
what?
Because I care about how realistic the scenarios are. But regardless...
Wait. That's a very realistic scenario that you could be... In fact, was Pearl Harbor a surprise attack?
Yeah, the one and only.
That was a pretty big surprise. No, not the one and only.
That too.
No, not just 9/11 either.
Okay,
no, many surprise attacks. War of 1812 started with a surprise attack. And by the way, the Civil War started with a surprise attack.
Can we compare...
No, let's compare. Stop cutting me off. I'm not done.
Okay.
The Civil War started with a surprise attack.
How many of those wars can we compare with, like, wars the United States has been a part of or has directly been involved in that are not surprised?
Those wars don't have conscripts. So World War II was a conscription war, yeah. And then if you go back to the Civil War, there was conscription during the Civil War as well.
What about
those
Vietnam?
those were our big surprise attacks.
What about Vietnam?
Yeah, Vietnam, there was a draft, but not very many
Korean
people
War?
actually got drafted, interestingly
Korean
enough.
War.
Was there conscription in the Korean War? I think there was. Yeah. 2-year war, yeah.
Yeah, there's the point I'm trying to get across.
But the two major ones, both of them seem to fit this criteria.
The point that I'm trying to get across is that I think that, you should not force the general populace to essentially, or any individual, to be part of a war they don't want to be part of. I just think that's fundamentally not okay for a government to do. And the reason why is because I'm sure we can agree there are times where the government doesn't necessarily have the best interest at heart when it comes to going to war.
So I just want to take this to its logical conclusion then. So if Russia had some fucking big windfall of wealth, and came to the shores of the United States and said, okay, I'm going to bribe all of you to join our military and invade. But by giving each of you, every man in the United States, $1 million, okay, to join our army and take over. If the citizenry of the United States agreed to that, the men, right, or even just a large portion of them, let's say the fighting age, like 10%, okay, joined the Ruskies and attacked us, you'd be okay with that because of voluntarism?
It's not that I'd be okay with it. It's just basically at that point, I guess, the nation deserves to die at that point. If your nation does not have enough people who are willing to volunteer to fight for it and is willing to give up to an enemy nation...
So if another nation bribes a portion of ours to go turncoat and join their military in order to take ours out. You don't believe that our military, or our government should be able to conscript its citizens to fight this nation off?
I think a nation that doesn't have enough people willing to line up to fight against these people is a nation that's already dead to begin with, essentially. I don't think, also,
What if you're dealing with a significantly larger military?
In what world is the example that you're giving us would not be applicable to the people who got drafted? Like, because if Russia has this large windfall of wealth or whatever, and is like, hey guys, join our military and we'll give you like $1 million, would it not also be in Russia's best interest to say like, hey, defect from the military and we'll give you $1 million?
Yeah, but then you have patriotism and consequence of patriotism.
Yeah, and patriotism and consequence of patriotism should either exist in the country beforehand or die.
But under your scenario, they're not traitors.
What do you mean they're not traitors?
What are they doing wrong?
No, I still think they're traitors. They're not fighting for the nation.
Traitors to what?
To the nation. They're going for an enemy conscript instead. They've decided that...
So they're traitors, but you don't care if they join the enemy because you deserve it.
It's not that I don't care if they join the enemy. It's just that I believe that the strength of the nation should be strong enough to have people being willing to take up arms and volunteer. And if you haven't created a nation with that, then your nation is essentially nothing.
So let me give you the major scenario then. The major scenario is you cannot reveal to the public how strong the enemy actually is because it would be strategically disadvantageous. You can't actually tell them how big this threat is. You can't tell them where this threat is. And the reason that you can't tell them this is because then the enemy will know, and then they will use that to their advantage to destroy your army. So because you have to keep that secretive, right, you might not be able to give the general public enough information to know why it is that they should be joining to protect their country. So in that case, wouldn't conscription be a viable option?
There's still something unethical about it. Mainly speaking, that you're essentially taking away people's choice.
But shouldn't you sometimes need to do that?
I think there are times where you can take away choices. I don't think you should ever be able to play roulette with a person's life without their consent.
Yeah, but again, this goes back to, I've just got to know in this scenario.
Yeah, no.
The government sees that there's an overwhelming force, but cannot announce this to the American public because if they were to say to the American public that they knew about how overwhelming this force really was and why it is people needed to volunteer to protect the nation, that would give away that they knew this critical information. And so instead they used conscription and quietly began to conscript people into the armed forces. Why would that be a problem?
Final thing from Pxie, and I'll move it on. Go ahead.
Because ultimately, what you're doing is that you're taking people's like individual right to determine essentially if they're going to live or die. I think at that point, what you should do is you should offer basically extremely high incentives for them to join, which is basically like, hey, after this war or after this,
don't have time.
Years,
we need them now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have to move things.
I gotta have her answer that last thing. We need them now.
I don't think you should be able to play roulette with a person's life under any circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I do want to touch on briefly the topic of get back to feminism, get back to patriarchy. One question for you though, Pxie. If you could, would you ban men from being able to vote on anything related to abortion rights?
No.
Okay. That was my question. Really quick, I think this would be good, I guess, bringing it back to the very beginning. How do you each define feminism? Pxie,
She has not actually defined it.
I'll have you go first.
We're using basically the working definition that we said earlier before.
No, I'm asking for yours.
Basically, again, feminism is super duper broad. The way I personally would describe it would be the movement / ideology of trying to create a system where men and women have equality or like equal opportunities, essentially.
So if the system was patriarchal, in order to achieve equality, you would need to dismantle patriarchal systems, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then my definition of feminism is the movement towards egalitarianism and the dismantling of patriarchy follows, right?
Yeah, it does follow.
So then you basically utilize my definition of feminism.
Well, that's why we agreed in the beginning. I said, yeah, let's use that definition.
Yeah, but saying let's use it doesn't mean you agree with it.
It's because I'm not, and I know you're like, oh, you're obfuscating, like you're making this so much more complicated than it is.
No, I'm fine with that if it has a point and it's not actually obfuscation.
Okay. The reason why I'm not being super strict with the definition of feminism is because since feminism is such a broad topic, somebody can easily bring up, I don't know if this will happen, I can't think of one from the top of my head, but if another definition is brought up, that also makes sense. I would be open to using that definition as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm just holding you to some kind of standard we can operate off of.
Yeah.
I understand it could be broader than the standard.
Yeah.
But at least a standard gives us something to talk around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so whether it's mine or yours, so I wanted to move past the you're granting me mine into this is a definition that at its core you kind of agree is also true. Okay, so that would be the definition.
Do we live in a patriarchy?
Yeah, I'd say we do.
Yeah, otherwise what could she dismantle?
And what is, did we define patriarchy earlier? What is a patriarchy? What is the patriarchy?
Basically, the patriarchy is, I don't even say necessarily like a system of governance, but a system of like societal structure where men have more power on the basis of being men.
Men have more power on the basis of being men.
Yes, like basically being a male in the system by virtue or whatever, because of the way that society views it, grants you with automatically some level of power more or respect more.
Is this all men or some men?
Oh, that's a good question. I kind of want some men, honestly. Because even if you try to argue that, like, oh no, men in general, or even if we say men in general, the point being is that there are certain men out there who do not meet the standards of what it means to be a man, like societally, and as a return, they're treated very, very badly, looked down upon, like at the same level like women, essentially. That's why I would argue that there are some extreme cases like that.
Yeah, I don't think patriarchy has anything to do with status. So my definition is just of the father. So this just means that men are in charge of shit. They're in charge of something.
Yeah.
That would be a patriarchal system, that men are in charge of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
So status itself, to me, how society views it, I don't actually care about. I don't actually care about the entailment of the societal viewing of men having more or less status, because arguably right now, I would say that men are not looked at as having more status than women in this society. Would you?
I think in certain areas.
Like?
I think men, basically women can exhibit some of the same behaviors men have, and they'll be looked down upon it, essentially.
Like?
Straightforwardness, assertiveness, just domineering behavior.
But they're looked down on often by other women for that.
And men, both.
Yeah, but I mean, men and women also look down on men if they're not exhibiting proper masculine qualities.
Yeah, I agree, but
Why would that be patriarchal?
it's patriarchal because it puts men in an inherent like benefit for
Well,
acting
you
in
haven't
ways that are
demonstrated.
manly.
You haven't demonstrated the benefit. You just said
Well,
that
the
if
benefit
women
is
don't
that
act
you're
like
more
women, they get there's a punishment for it. But the same with men.
The benefit is that if, what is it? The benefit is basically they're more likely to be promoted, to be, essentially put into power because they're acting like men. That's the point. If I'm a woman, let's say, you know how we were talking about human
give me
characteristics
a demonstration of that.
Okay, easy. Let's take a man and a woman, and let's say they're both, trying to get this like CEO position, whatever. They're trying to apply for it, and they're getting interviewed by basically they're interviewing the subordinates to see like who's better, blah 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 blah. If the woman is as assertive as a guy is or has been towards her subordinates, they're usually seen as like bitchy, or they're usually seen as like a pain in the ass or whatever. While the guy is more likely to be seen as, no, he's just assertive. He just knows what he wants. So based on this, the woman is more likely to be like penalized, to not get that position, to be looked down upon because she is exhibiting the same attribute that the man is, which is being assertive or
But
domineering.
that doesn't demonstrate, because we view men and women a certain way based on their ontology and the physicality and the way that they actually operate, that there's no advantages that are equal to this advantage you perceive in the CEO aspect to women. And if that is the case, then the idea that men have certain advantages and women have other certain advantages still wouldn't make it patriarchal if we're looking at status.
Well, first of all, can you give me an example? And then second of all...
Yeah, let me give you a ton of examples where women's status is very helpful to them just by being women, where it's not for men.
Before, I said first of all, but then second of all...
Can we do one at a time so we don't get bogged down in this? We have to answer 5 points at a time. Let's do one at a time.
They're intertwined. Because
Okay.
I was going to say, second of all, even in cases where, a woman has an advantage because she's acting womanly versus a man who's has an advantage because he's acting like manly or whatever, the argument here is just not, are there advantages to being a woman or a man? There are advantages to being both. The one is, which one is more likely to put you in a position of power?
Okay, but when you're talking about status, you agree with me that power comes in many forms.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're talking about status, don't you think that it's a very powerful position for women to be in, to be the default when it comes to custodial agreements of children?
Yes, but it's usually not because they're women. It's usually because they're the primary caretaker.
Nope, it's traditionally just been because they're women. In fact, there's laws which governed this for years and years. Just because woman,
Yes,
instant custody.
because women
and
were
even
seen as a
right
primary
now,
caretaker.
that's carried on the same exact way that it is in the CEO idea. So this is going to be case specific. Some men aren't going to look at women applying for a CEO job and say, oh, she's being a bitch, therefore she's gone. They might prefer assertive women in those positions. Some men, maybe not. And maybe it's the majority of those some men who don't want that assertiveness that they would prefer in a man. Great. Okay, so maybe that gives men an advantage in that particular criteria. However, the status of women is also advantageous in other areas. So I'm not confident that using your definition of status proves patriarchy if women are advantaged in different areas.
Okay. I don't think... Well, here's a few things. The first one I want to ask you is if you could give me a specific study so that I can look at specifically of, in recent era...
Here's one we can agree on easily. For the same crime, including violent crimes, women get lesser sentences than men.
Yes, absolutely. That is an advantage.
It's an advantage,
yes,
massive
I said that's
advantage.
an advantage, yes. And again, as I said before, there are certain advantages women have under the patriarchy.
That would fall under status, yes? That your status merely as being a woman
but that's because,
is assisting you?
Yeah, I agree with that. But that's also because women are viewed as weaker. They're not viewed as much as a threat. They are
So?
viewed, it's a status that is lower. It's essentially saying like, oh, you know, I view you the same way I would view like, you know, like a cat trying to like claw me. Like you're not that much of a threat, so I'm not gonna punish you as much because, you know, who the fuck cares? You're just a woman. So that is, maybe it's an advantage towards women, but it's fucked up and it shouldn't be that way.
Who cares? It's still a status which is enjoyed and a privilege by women.
But it's not
that
a
you
status
cannot-
over men.
Okay,
It's
first of
not-
all, again, here's our conflicting definitions. When you
Yeah.
say status, right? I say patriarchies of the father, men are in charge. Okay, that would be a patriarchal system. Women often, as judges in these cases, hand down lighter sentences just like the men do. This is not a purely male phenomenon at all, so how can it be
it's
patriarchal?
A societal, what is it? Again, it's patriarchal because the view is that men should be taken more seriously than women. They are.
By even including women.
Yes, I'm not.
So how could that be
What do you mean?
patriarchy?
Again.
Is the patriarchy brainwashing them to believe that?
No, unironically.
Yes, of
unironically,
course.
yeah, no.
Yeah, of course.
women do uphold the patriarchy. I've never disagreed with this. The whole idea.
I think that women are upholding the idea that women are less of a threat. I think that women uphold the idea that women deserve to
Both-
have custody. I think that women use
Women
the stats,
and men.
including feminists specifically use stats all the time, everywhere.
I'm sorry.
Saying, hang on, let me finish my argument.
Okay.
Saying this, saying that men are hyperpredatory. Because they're hyperpredatory, this is why they're viewed as being predators. They should be viewed this way. Women should get lighter sentences. They don't do as much crime as men do. Women enforce this narrative, not men.
I think both men and women
I think
enforce
more
this
women-
narrative.
I think feminists-
We literally had a conversation for the past 2 hours where you were telling me how men, you know, if they decided to go and kill everybody or kill all women, they could because
Yeah.
they have the monopoly on power.
So?
You are enforcing the same patriarchy that now you're saying, oh no, it's
No,
women
I'm
who are
giving
actually
you-
doing this, not
giving-
me.
I'm giving you a logical argumentation that rights themselves come only because men allow women to have those rights. Do I think that the default is that men will be in charge indefinitely in some capacity? Yes. But your definition is status.
Yeah.
Status. So men could conceivably be in charge and women still have a higher status, which would make it, in your definition, not a patriarchy.
No, I think, what is it? Power and status are often interlinked.
Not always.
More often than not, though. When you are.
Prove it.
Okay. Who is the most powerful person in the world right now?
I don't know.
I'd argue the President of the United States.
Yeah, and
Historically.
that would be an argue, yeah, I
Okay.
guess.
Historically speaking.
I wouldn't say that that's a high status job anymore, though.
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree then.
What, did you think when Trump was in office that the presidency was a really high status job?
Yeah, I think it still was. I think it
Yeah, I don't
literally being the President of the United
And who's
States
about to be Kamala?
is probably, it's the most, I would
And
argue.
is Kamala right now about to be the president, possibly?
We'll find out.
But if she is, then is it a matriarchy then? Because she's at the highest status?
As, again, I stated before,
Uh-huh.
it would be like a general system. Just having one CEO, one woman president, one woman in power doesn't necessarily dismantle
be a
the
one-to-one?
entire system. Yeah, no, it would, or similar. It would have to be pretty
So
close.
I don't understand how come tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of women can enjoy the status and privilege of custodial agreements, getting lighter sentences, having their doors open for them, making sure that all of their meals are bought for them, making sure that society in and of itself caters to them in a way that they do not cater back to society. They're not doing the most dangerous jobs in the world. The mortality rates inside of men's workforce versus women are astrofucking-nomical because women can't do the jobs men can do. Seems like you have a much higher status in society than men do. We're viewed as interchangeable,
That's so
expendable
interesting.
widgets.
You know, if women really had like that same level of status that men do, you would expect that to carry out more in the workforce too. You'd expect them to have, let's say, like more positions of power. You'd expect them to have more positions of governance. You would expect it to be like around similar numbers, but
Why?
for some reason we don't get that.
Yeah, because you don't.
What do you mean? It's the
because
same
you
level of
don't do
status.
anything of status.
What do you?
How much status are you going to have as a kindergarten teacher? You don't do
We're
anything
talking
anybody gives you
about
status for.
about women and men who are similar, if not the exact same qualifications,
Okay.
applying to the same exact jobs and having the men still being picked more.
Oh no, is that so? Do they enjoy on some kind of hiring status quo the fact that they don't get fucking pregnant and so they won't have to leave their job for 9 months out of the fucking year and they won't have to stay home and take extended vacations, which is what women demand and men don't? From an employer standpoint, male or female, Makes sense, doesn't it?
No,
not a status
it
symbol.
doesn't. It really doesn't make sense because one, you're presupposing that every woman who applies to the job ever is going to get fucking pregnant.
If
and then second of all,
Bro, if
for the
you're an
society
employer-
that I'm advocating for, both men and women would get equal levels of paternity and maternity
Oh,
leave.
great. That's nice. But unfortunately, it doesn't work out
Yeah,
that way
okay.
equally. Hang on.
And then
My
the po-
turn. I just listened. My turn to respond. So just so you know, if you are running a company which is hiring a lot of men and women, you would probably just make general policies. General policies. Not individualistic policies. You and I can both agree that only females can get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Only. Only females can get pregnant. No males ever can get pregnant. Ever.
Can I? Oh, I don't want to derail, but
No males can become
You
pregnant.
can answer the question. You can answer.
okay. Do you consider a person with XY chromosomes male or female?
No. You can be a male and have a double X chromosome depending on your biology. But you can still be a male. You only have two.
How do you define male?
That would be somebody who follows the typified pathway for female or male. So your organs, your body can only have X amount of organs. Those organs are going to be, even in chimeras, this is true. You're only going to have one reproductive pathway that's viable. And so
Okay.
you can determine the sex that way.
So you agree that I'm just curious. I'm just generally curious. So there are people who have XY chromosomes that can get pregnant.
Yeah, so what?
So they're women or men?
No. Again, didn't I just say that it had nothing to do with chromosomes? Repeat.
No, that's what I'm clarifying.
Stop.
I'm clarifying.
Stop. Repeat back to me what I told you.
You said-
what is a male and a female
You
from my
said
definition?
you said it depends on the reproductive status.
No,
Essentially, that
that's
there's
not
only
what I
one
said.
reproductive
So let me
path,
try it
and even
again. Let me
chimeras.
try it again. You can only, as a human being, have one of two viable reproductive pathways.
That's why literally.
I didn't say reproductive status
Okay.
because there's women without uteruses who are still
pathways.
females.
Okay, sorry for
It's important that we make this distinction.
Okay.
And do you know why it's important to make this distinction?
Because-
there's women who obviously can't have children,
Yeah,
but they're still
okay.
quite female.
Okay, so it's a reproductive pathway.
Yes, it's the one of two reproductive pathways your body is capable of going down. And
Okay.
there's only two.
Okay, and so okay, I'm just curious, and because of the whole trans athlete, well, they're not trans, but because
You mean the
there were-
female?
Huh?
You mean the female athlete?
Yeah, and that there were a bunch of people.
Yeah, that was a female.
Okay, cool, awesome. I'm glad we agree.
Yeah, I mean, I used it as a great way to bash on the T's because I like to do that. But yes, that was a female.
Okay, cool.
So one of two reproductive pathways which are available. No men can become pregnant. And let's assume for a second that because you're like a blue-haired social justice lunatic, that there's 10 who could, 10 males or 20 or 200 males or even 2,000. We could say with great confidence that almost every company on planet Earth is never going to have to deal with one.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so if that is the case, then we can reduce this to females only are going to be the carriers of the children. So if you are in charge of a company and you are setting a standard for who you want to hire, right? Why would you not set the standard for people who are going to require less in the way of leaving the company for extended periods of time based on pregnancy, based on this, based on that?
I understand what you're trying to say. I just think fundamentally, I would focus more on who has more qualifications, or basically who I believe to be more qualified to lead.
Yeah, I mean, but who cares what you personally would like? If you
Yes.
can envision from the employer standpoint, you're in charge of 500 employees with a revolving
and I think
door.
from the employer standpoint, you can make generalizations about gender, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're hiring the best person per se if you're making those generalizations on gender.
Yeah, but
so
if
you might be
you're-
missing some of the top applicants just because
Yeah,
you're assuming
maybe-
that they can
okay,
get pregnant.
so maybe your
And
job- I had a
what is
job
it?
once,
I
for
want to listen
instance.
to what you have to say. I just have to also run to the bathroom. I'm not gonna be able to.
All
I'll be
right,
right
go
back.
ahead.
That's
Sorry.
We'll take a little break here.
Yeah, I'll have a smoke then. Do we have enough time for that? Maybe not.
Maybe this would be a good opportunity for us to plug.
Debate University.
Unfortunately, I can't really pull it up. Here, hold on. Andrew, I'll run to the computer and we'll plug it real quick.
Sure.
If you can.
Oh, yeah, you have to carry the show. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying the debate so far. It's been enjoyable for me. I don't often get to tangle with the Twitch politics lunatics anymore as much as I used to. You can get bogged down on some very specific quagmires, but they're all good to get bogged down on because it just kind of shows how fucking crazy they are the more you go, right? We're going to have all-female prison because you can shoot slightly better. Fucking crazies, dude. Crazies. But what can you do? Except have the debates because they're fun to have. What can you do? By the way, you're looking at Verbal Combat. This is, of course, put on by myself, and it has been partnered with Whatever Podcast and Brian Atlas. Verbal Combat, if you're enjoying what you see today, that is part of Verbal Combat, showing you exactly the case-by-case for how to have informal debates. Ton of fun to have. It will help you in all aspects of your life, though, when it comes to verbally jousting with any opponent. This could be family, friends, boss. It could be a lunatic, blue-haired feminist, like is in the room now.
Obviously.
Who's only missing the Destiny die. So I would highly recommend that you go as fast as possible, pick up that course. We sure hope that you will. You're going to learn a lot. There's over
Aw,
Yeah.
I was gonna go full out.
over 80 videos. 6 hours of content. We have a bunch more content we're going to be releasing in the next 60 days or so. And those of you who have bought the course, of course, you're going to have access to that at no additional charge. You can become a member of the debate group. We'll be in there a couple times a month, hosting Q&A sessions for anything that you guys want to talk about. So that's debateuniversity.com. And the course you want is Verbal Combat. Hope you guys pick it up. Okay, so we're back to this. Now, where the fuck were we?
What is it? We're talking
Did you go?
about...
Did you run in the bathroom and read your text message? You did, didn't you?
No, I left my phone here. You could look. You'll go
All
back.
right, all right. I'm just fucking around.
I know.
So, Brian, we're gonna about 30 minutes wrap this up. Okay.
Please, I'm so hungry.
Yeah, I know. That's why. I know she's dying. Yeah. We'll get centered for you, Brian. Is that better?
Turn the mic a little bit.
This way?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Scoot it a little closer to you. The microphone, scoot it to the edge.
Okay.
Well done. Continue on.
That's great.
Congrats_you_played_yourself donated $100. 100% of what you scam as the patriarchy derives from female sexual selection. Men must climb hierarchies plus attain power. If you didn't demand IT, it'd go away plus you'd have any real shot at equality.
Yeah, this is a good point that is brought in, that women essentially demand, based on sexual selection, that men be high status.
Ugh.
I'll tell you what, though, you can prove me wrong, right? The dating prospects that you're going to have in the future, lower or higher status men?
Ideally, same, or somebody who matches me where I'm weak.
Yeah, based on your history, the men that you've dated have been equally yoked to you, or they have been higher status?
I would say equal.
Equal.
Yeah, I would say...
And have you ever dated a prominent Twitch or YouTube streamer?
No.
Never?
No.
Not even once?
Not even. I disappeared off the internet for like 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Like,
So what'd your last boyfriend do?
my last boyfriend was a philosophy student.
Okay.
I was in college.
Okay. So in the future, you'd want somebody who's equal to you? Not going to be taller, not going to be stronger?
No, equal, or I would say equal or higher.
Or higher, yeah.
But it's just weird because I don't really view relationships in terms of higher or lower. I usually view as who's going to help. It sounds so weird. So I want to have children in the future. I want to have 3 children. And I want somebody who's ideally good at the things I'm not good at, you know? Because I want to be able to raise my children like equally.
What are those?
So for example, I suck at cooking. I'm really bad at cooking.
You want your man to cook?
Yes. I would be the happiest woman alive if my man knows how to cook.
So you want a stay-at-home dad?
No, not completely. So he would take over probably cooking. I would probably take over more cleaning to even things out. We don't have to make the same exact salary. I could make some more, or he could make some more. But then I expect that to be reflected in the amount of like home labor that we take over. So if he's making more, I would do more home labor. Mm-hmm. And if I'm making more, I would expect him to do more home labor.
Okay, that's fair. So now let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and lie as much as you want. I'm almost, in fact, I will bet you the milkshake that you lie to me right now. I will bet you a milkshake that you lie. Do you think that most women prefer to have men who have a higher status than them, or they want it to be about equal?
No, they want equal or higher. I think they prefer higher. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason for this goes back to
social conditioning, right?
Not just social conditioning, but I guess maybe this is a form of social conditioning, labor in the household. So right now, the problem that you have for a lot of women is that they're making either the same as their guy, or in the scenarios where they're sometimes even making more, but they're taking basically all of the household labor. So it's like, fuck, like, let's say we're both, let's say I'm in a relationship with somebody and we're making the same, but now at home, I am doing all the cooking, all the cleaning, I'm taking care of the children. Well, fuck, now I'm doing basically twice the labor that you are. I'm doing the labor in the home and I'm doing the labor outside the home.
It seems like it would be preferable to have like a man who could just hire all that out.
I think for a lot of women, yeah. I think for most people.
So higher status?
Well, yes, but the
and
point
is that
I'm
based on social conditioning, or is it just based on the fact that they want men to be able to provide the life they want?
Yeah, sure, provision. But I also think there's a lot of women out there who's not going to essentially go for a guy just because he has a lot of money. If they genuinely love a guy, then they don't need the guy to be like freaking rich Mr. McGee money pants. They just need the guy to be able to carry their weight.
Yeah, but the social status that you're talking about, if you want to be desired by women, the higher your social status is, the higher you're usually desired by women, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then if that's the case, then
women.
this commenter, when he says, okay, and by the way, you do owe me the burger, but I don't owe you the milkshake, because I feel like you were actually honest there. Then the commenter is correct that men have every incentive to climb the hierarchy because of female expectation that they do climb the hierarchy. How would that be patriarchal? Based on status? If the status is demanded by women, wouldn't women be imposing a matriarchy then?
No, because I'm saying that women can demand whatever.
Women.
They can demand whatever from their partner. One, it doesn't mean that the men are actually meeting that expectation. And then two, women themselves are not reaching that status. I'm talking about individually. Am I at the same level status as this other guy? I'm not saying like what I demand of my partner or demand of the other person. I'm saying like from my merits alone, can I reach that status?
Yeah, but men don't give a shit if you're a Starbucks barista and you're hot. But women,
I don't think that's true.
Yeah,
I think a lot of men care about beauty. Don't get me wrong. I think
okay, so let's see if we can figure this out in 5 seconds.
Okay.
Really, really, really fucking ugly rich chick. Really, really hot Starbucks barista. 35-year-old guy. Go.
I think a lot of guys, especially like nowadays, would be gigolos, 100%.
Now you definitely owe me the milkshake. Definitely owe me the milkshake. Lying through your teeth.
I'm
Who
not
would they
lying through my
take? Come
teeth.
on.
I
They're going
think-
to take the fucking really heinous, ugly millionaire over the barista who's hot? Really?
Yeah, dude. I think they would 100%. And they cheat on her too. They cheat on her.
Triangle.
I think, what is it? I think, well, whatever. Even if we disagree.
No, I don't think we disagree. So let's try this again. I just want to make sure that I'm crystal clear on this because you're saying it publicly on a massive platform. So I want to make sure I can clip this 1,000 times and distribute it everywhere, I'm going to.
Everywhere.
You think that if a man, an average 35-year-old Joe, had the option, right, of being in a monogamous relationship with a hideous, ugly, unattractive as fuck millionaire chick or a really fucking hot 24-year-old barista, they would take the really hideous millionaire?
I don't think they would be monogamous. I think they'd cheat on her.
Okay, but they don't want you to cheat, so
Yeah.
yeah. So because of that, you don't get the millionaire, right?
I
But
think, what is it? They would 100% cheat on her.
I don't think that's the question. though.
that's not the
Okay.
question.
I think most guys would fuck the 24-year-old chick.
No, which one would they want?
I don't know. I wanted
You
to
don't
say.
know
I
yet.
know. I want to say the millionaire. I do. I think. What is it? It's Kat being like, oh no, they won't cheat on them. I think they will.
Fine.
I also think. What
I'll
is
take
it?
the fucking millionaire over the beautiful woman. I get it. They care that much about status.
No, I think. What is it? It's just. It's more about the stuff that they can buy than the status and stuff. Whatever.
Do you think that it's...
Wait, can I-
Do you think that... yeah, you can ask whatever you want. I just have one quick
Okay.
follow-up, right? How is it possible for me to debate with somebody who's delusional? Like, how
you
can I
think I'm
make...
delusional?
How can I craft a coherent argument if we can't agree on the basics?
Average Joe donated $100. I'll take the broke hottie
Yeah, of
and
course.
an Americano.
Of course. Who wouldn't take that?
I could
Who
do a
wouldn't take the
poll.
broke hottie?
Should I do a poll in the chat?
Did
Yeah,
you
ask him.
mention? I'm pretty sure there was one time.
Ask
we
him,
were,
wicked fucking witch of the West who's a millionaire
So-
with a hump on her back and she's gross as
Okay,
shit.
if she's the grossest person alive.
No, not the
maybe
grossest
not.
alive. She's just really ugly.
Yeah, I think.
So what's the poll question? Which would you pick?
Really ugly chick?
No,
or
but I know the two differences. But which would you pick? Which would you date? Which would you
pick for a monogamous relationship?
which would
date?
you date? How about that?
How about
Keep
marry?
it simple.
Which one would you marry?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that's fine,
Which
too.
would you date /
They're all
marry?
gonna
How about
say the
that?
hot one.
So
Well, I know,
there's-
but you know, they secretly though, all of them
Ugly.
secretly
No.
want the millionaire, right?
I think what
so
would happen
wait,
is
is
they
it
pick a
ugly
millionaire and
fat
cheat on
rich
her.
woman? Ugly fat rich woman versus ugly fat old rich woman.
Yeah.
Versus
Young,
Okay.
hot Starbucks
They
barista.
would
Ugly.
take advantage of her wealth and then sleep with whatever young woman they want. That's what I think
Yeah,
would
but if they
happen.
could choose one.
Yeah, what is it? I don't think.
Yeah, but if they could
Yeah,
choose
you're
one.
saying if
so
just
without
for
changing the
banging,
question, if they could choose one.
they would bang. If they had to pick one to bang, it would be the 24-year-old chick.
No, if they had to pick
It's
one to be
date
with.
and marry. Date and marry.
To live their entire life, maybe I'm too female-brained or whatever. I would find it very hard for so many men to just be like, no, like I actually would pick the 24-year-old barista.
They would.
Well, anyways.
And I'm not saying, now, I don't want you to be confused by this. I don't want you to think that I'm saying 51% would. I don't want you to be confused and think that I'm saying 60%
You're saying
would.
like 99.
I want you to understand that it would be 90+% of men who would pick the young, hot Starbucks barista. And I would like to know from your worldview why you think that is, other than because you would value the status of the millionaire.
I
Pull us
think
up.
guys like to think of themselves as, oh, and I shouldn't say guys in general because it's not in general. I think there's a subsection of men who like to view themselves as, you know, valiant, like, oh, I'll protect her, I'll take care of her, blah, blah, blah.
No, they
like,
wanna
that's
fuck her.
why,
They wanna fuck
or,
her.
you know, yeah, I just want to fuck, whatever.
No, they want. Do you know why they want to fuck young, hot women? Do you know why
You're
they
going to
do?
say because of the reproductive
Yeah,
value.
what else would it be?
Yeah. I think right now,
If the primary
especially
edict
as our,
is to breed, like what else would it be?
okay, do you think looks is all that matters?
No, of course not.
What else?
Well, I think it's situational. So
What do you
I
mean by
think,
that? Yeah,
well, so
sorry.
I think that it's conditional upon the situation of man that some things could change when it comes to that. But I would always say this, that primarily attraction does have to be there. And attraction not only does have to be there, but it has to be there long term. Both people have to be attracted to each other or it won't work. You can't falsify attraction. So yeah, attraction is still going to be the number one edict.
Do you think there are factors for men that influence attraction outside of physical appearance?
Yes, but not nearly as much. So it's overwhelmingly going to be this one category first. You couldn't have umbrella trains from it, right? But the thing is that I want to, for the rest of my life, want to be attracted to my wife.
Why do these other factors influence?
Oh, for a variety of reasons, because men have external preferences to just singular things.
No. But I'm saying, okay. When it comes to physical attraction, there is a basis, right? You're saying reproductive value. Is it fair?
That's why you value youth, yeah.
Yes. Is it fair to say that other factors are also influenced by reproductive value, like basically outside of beauty?
Ulysses the Pagan donated $100. I would marry the hot barista and then steal her tips. See, I can force an outliners to Pxie.
Anyway.
Speaking of which, really quickly, we do have the poll results in. They're still coming in, but there's over 900 votes. Which would you date marry? It's 93% hot 25-year-old minimum wage woman versus, it just shifted to 92. 8% say the ugly, fat 35-year-old rich woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now it's back to 93.
Okay, so basically, why?
Oh, wait. Remember I told you earlier, not 60%.
I know, okay.
Not 70%. Not 80%. 90+% of men would prefer this.
Okay.
And these are probably trolls who are
Yeah.
voting for the...
She has an audience. They've got to be offsetting it with that other 7%.
No, my audience is nothing.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Anyways,
those are just Andrew haters, right? Anyway, go ahead.
do you think that basically the other factors outside of physical appearance are also influenced by the reproductive value they have? I'm going to use intelligence as an example, right? The whole idea why, I want to mate, I want to reproduce, whatever. So theoretically speaking, a guy would value intelligence in a woman because it means that genetically...
Men don't value intelligence in women.
Oh, okay, interesting. Is it enough to just reproduce?
For men?
Yeah.
It's enough for most men. Yeah, to be with a hot chick, that's enough.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is that...
So I think that they don't want their women to like be knuckle dragging retards. But when you're talking about hyper intelligent or high intelligent, I think that you're talking about like they want them to be really, really smart, right? That's like an attractive feature.
What I'm trying to say, kind of. What I'm trying to say is that it's not...
I think that they have to be able to like, do basic things like cook and clean. I'm not sure that they need to be fucking neurosurgeons. No, I don't think they care about that. No.
Yeah, men care about not just their child only being born, but their child surviving, right? Otherwise, that defeats the entire purpose. If the child reproduces and dies 2 seconds later. Yeah, okay, so we agree. It's not just enough for the child to be born. The child has to survive and thrive. Because otherwise, there's no point in reproduction. They're born and they die 2 seconds later. No. Okay, so now that we've established that.
Yeah, but how hard is it to keep a kid alive?
Yeah, okay.
Literal fucking retards can do this.
Now, what is it? The question becomes, and it's what's going to be better for the kid to thrive?
Yeah,
a smart mom or a dumb mom?
You're thinking way far past what women are thinking about.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like reproductively.
No, you're thinking like a woman.
Like genetically.
You're thinking maternally. You select men based on the fact of what is the longevity of our children going to be like. Men don't select you for that. They don't need to.
Okay, reproductively speaking, if it's not enough to just have your child be born, your child has to thrive because otherwise there's no purpose of it being born.
Yes,
if it's going to die and
men,
not actually be able to reproduce and continue your family lineage.
Almost every woman can do this because it's not difficult to do.
Okay. Do you
it is
want
super
your family...
not difficult to keep a baby alive, in other words.
Okay, but it's not just that, right? It's not just keeping the baby alive. It's having the baby thrive eventually so he can spread your lineage.
Yeah, but he thinks that the baby's going to thrive based on his ability to produce, not your ability to keep it alive.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Because just reproducing, as we established before, is not enough. If the baby is born, and even if the baby meets a minimum standard of being alive, that doesn't necessarily, according to your view of essentially like hierarchy, the baby has to be able to climb or get higher in the hierarchy so that they can then reproduce and continue the family lineage. Men aren't
thinking in those terms. You're wrong.
You're saying we agreed evolutionarily that men want their children to thrive. It's not enough for it to be born.
Stop. The mechanism for which that occurs, we have two very distinct opinions about. So let me explain. I firmly 100% believe, having raised many children into maturity, that keeping a child alive is fucking easy. And it's even easy for a woman to do because they're designed to stay alive. And so what happens is even 70, 80 IQ, dumbass women can keep a child alive. Men don't bank on the fact, never bank on the fact, that, when this baby is fucking 5 or 6, what are the values she's going to instill? They don't think like that. What they think instead is the kid going to be healthy? I can do all that shit. I can instill the values. I can instill the program. I can instill all of that.
Okay. What child is going to be easier to install these values or programs in? An average child,
actually, if the
smart child.
Actually, if the mom's kind of stupid, that would make it way
child.
easier for you to download your programming into the kid's brain.
Okay.
Because then what's the mom going to say? She's too dumb to argue.
Genetics are 50-50.
What's that?
Genetics are 50-50.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Mike Davis donated $100. Andrew, forget this debate for a minute. I want to hear you speak on that fat juice head fake tough guy who tried to alpha you on Fresh and Fit. Roast that bozo.
Well, apparently he just got swatted, and he was caught on the steps of some fucking apartment or something, crying his eyes out, and that was all caught on film because he is a well, I mean, like you said, I guess he's the alpha of the alphas. But anyway, I don't endorse any of that, by the way. No swatting ever. That's gross. But him crying, that's funny.
Yeah. So if genetics are 50-50, then the mother's intelligence matters just as much as your intelligence.
Yeah, but this
So
is
if
a
your
logical
child-
argument to preference. I'm
Yeah, no.
talking about what men prefer, not whether or not it's logical
Yeah, and I'm saying
that they prefer that.
What is it? I'm saying if you are arguing that men care about beauty because that's linked to fertility and that's linked to your child surviving, they should not just should. I do think they do care about intelligence, even though you're saying not. This is where I don't think you're saying the truth because
well, I'll tell you the truth. I'm going to be unequivocally as truthful as I can possibly be. Okay, men don't give a fuck about you being a doctor or a lawyer or the potential to be a doctor or lawyer because you have some big high IQ. They don't fucking care. Here's what they care about. They care that you have a really nice ass and a nice pair of boobs and you look like you're going to bear children. And the reason they value the big boobs and the nice hip ratio and all of that is because intuitively, they can see genetically, ingrained in them, they know that you can bear their offspring. So what happens is, from the evolutionary standpoint, right, when they see you, it makes their penis hard. And they go, I want to have sex with her. And that's as far as they're usually thinking about it.
Very simple question. You have a 25-year-old hot woman. You have another 25-year-old hot woman, equally hot. One is more intelligent than the other. You're saying to you,
This _ Bish _ projecting donated $100. You said he'd exploit her plus cheat because that's, at its core, what women do to men. It's her nature, so you assume we are the same.
Right, exactly.
Men seek wealth because it wins them better women.
Right.
Evil shit boo. Smiley
don't fucking
face.
care.
Smiley face. Smiley face.
Yeah, so anyway.
wait.
Also,
Let
thank
me
you,
get
Mike
my
Davis.
Go ahead.
sentence out.
Yeah, no, you were saying.
Go ahead. You're going to equalize the primary value.
Yeah.
The two 25-year-olds.
You have a 25-year-old hot woman and another
have the-
25. Let me finish.
yeah.
Let me say the full sentence.
The answer is the
Wait, let me
intelligence. You
finish.
would select for the intelligence at that point.
Okay, yeah. So if you had a 25-year-old hot woman, another 25-year-old hot
would
woman,
select for
equally
the
the same.
intelligence.
Yeah, you would select for intelligence.
Yeah, but why?
Because
Because you've equalized the primary value. So now, let me give you the counter to this because it's really simple. Now we don't have the equalizing of the primary value, okay? So the one chick is less hot and more smart, and the other chick is less smart and more hot. Who does the man go for?
yeah, I think it depends on how big. Because I'm pretty sure there's some guys who take a slightly less attractive woman
wait,
who's going to guarantee that their
What do you
child
mean?
is basically going to be the
I'm
next
basing,
Elon Musk.
Wait. I'm basing it in the same exact hypothetical you gave me. You said we're going to equalize the primary thing that men are interested in. We equalized it.
Yeah.
One is more intelligent than the other. I'm giving you the exact same hypothetical back with the only differentiation being, okay, now the primary edict here has been lopsided to the same degree that the intelligence was. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so you're saying one is smarter but less
however smart you, in your conditional hypothetical, are claiming the one woman is exactly how less attractive she is in mine. So which one is he selecting for?
Yeah, now you're reversing it. So I'm
No,
not. Yeah,
I
no.
know.
I know what you're saying. I understand what you're
That's
saying.
exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So answer.
Okay.
Like I did.
So yeah, a lot of men would pick the hotter one.
Yeah, there you go.
But
That's that.
there's easily scenarios where you have a woman who is maybe slightly less attractive, but
Sure.
super freaking smart, and a woman who is more attractive, less smart. There's a lot of men who would pick the smarter
7%
woman.
of men would take the
I
fucking
think more
ugly
than 7%.
millionaire.
If you could guarantee, or very high likelihood that your child is going to be the next Elon Musk, would you not take it?
If I had a crystal ball,
Like, let's say this woman is so intelligent, and you know that. Yeah, let's say.
but she was ugly?
Not even ugly, just slightly less attractive.
Well, no. In that case, maybe I would equalize it that way. But
Wait,
now
so
you,
really? So
but
if you
now
had a
have-
woman who was hotter by
Let me
slightly.
answer the question. When you say slightly, right, that could mean like, I don't know, her nose is in a slightly different position than what I would prefer, right? When you say slightly, what does that mean?
Yeah, it means that we have two women. One's a little hotter but dumber. The other one is a little less hotter but a lot smarter.
Yeah. So if you were to take a secondary conditional, like you were to say, we could do this with money too. Oh, this chick her nose is in a slightly different position than I would ordinarily like. But other than that, she's just as hot as this other chick, but she has $2 million. Sure, we can use that as an offset. I'll absolutely bite that bullet because it doesn't do shit to my argument, which is that when it comes to selection, the primary edict is going to be the value of the looks. And when you say that there's these tangentials to this, right, that men select and value for, I've already agreed that that's true, but to a massively lesser degree than the primary edict. In this case, you've taken the tangential, which I've already agreed they value to a much lesser degree, and put it at a massive higher degree than the slight amount of offset from them being hot.
Because the point
so all
that
you've
I'm
done is
trying
make
to,
my fucking point
no,
for
the
me.
point
Triangle.
that I'm trying to illustrate.
Triangle for you.
The point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that you said in the beginning that men don't give a shit about intelligence. They just
don't.
care if you're
They don't
hot.
fucking care.
But we have just illustrated multiple examples where you said, you know what, the more intelligent one, despite the hotness factor. So yeah.
No, what's happened is the argument started, and I can even show you in my notes, with you saying that they value other things other than this, and me agreeing that that is true. They do value other things other than this, but that the primary thing they value. Primary thing. For instance, you would agree with me that men would value a woman with $2 million, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but when put to the poll of she does have that $2 million, but she's not fucking hot, they value the hot one over the $2 million. So we now have an order of operations of what they value. We know that they value the looks over whatever this tangential thing is. That includes intelligence and this and that. But if you were to make a tiny offset, a slight offset to the primary edict here, and you were to take one of these kinds of tangentials and make it overwhelmingly high in order to take care of this tiny offset, then I can literally concede to that, and it makes my fucking point.
Okay.
Keep going. Sorry. I'm opening out here.
It's okay. Sorry, I got distracted.
Sorry.
The point that I'm trying to illustrate, or as I stated before, well, first of all, I do think most men are capping when they're talking about like the hotness of a woman versus multimillionaires, whatever.
Prove it.
I think
that's not what they marry.
What is it?
Millionaires are marrying fucking poor women. Millionaire women ain't marrying poor men.
Okay.
Sorry.
What do you think?
There's actors out there dating 20-year-old hot women who are not fucking actresses, but show me all of the famous millionaire women who are out there fucking dating the Starbucks barista who's a man.
J-Lo.
J-Lo what?
Didn't she have like a young, like 24?
Yeah, is she married to him? Probably not.
Oh, I just got him. Sorry. I just read physical engineering is a different field than applied engineering. Sorry, that was, let me go back to the main focus. I agree. Most rich women, well, I don't know, because you have cougars. Like, we have a literal entire field. We have a name for this of, rich older women that go for younger men.
The cougars aren't marrying them.
I donated this fucking $200 just to get this dumb argument across. Please let this sink in. Men don't give a rat's ass about a woman's intelligence. We just don't.
Don't fucking care. Like, look, the thing is that if you make these value judgments, I'm willing to concede to your value judgments. I am willing to concede that men value all these different things. They value intelligence. They value kindness. There's a million different kind of like attributes that I would say men value. What I'm saying is that the primary value that they value more than any of those is the idea that you're fucking hot. That's what they value more than anything else. More than any of those tangentials. Now, you can create offsets.
This is so not true. I'm sorry.
Stop. You can create offsets where you say that I can slightly decrease the primary attribute to the point that it's almost, who cares? Like, nose in a slightly different position, eyelashes a little longer than I'd like, but I can compensate for that when she has $8 million or she's a fucking 160 IQ neurosurgeon. Sure, I'll concede to that. Who gives a fuck?
I want to go back to a couple of things. You were saying, these women aren't marrying like these younger men or whatever.
They're not.
The vast majority are not, but the vast majority of millionaire men are not marrying the 25-year-old baristas either.
But far more of them are than the opposite.
The vast majority of people, though, if we're talking about society as a whole, we're not just talking about outliers, not just age range. We're talking about class lines. Most wealthy people marry other wealthy people. That's just how it be.
Yeah,
so the whole idea, like, look at these subsection of men that are marrying younger women. That's not the vast majority of society.
We have a difference, though, in the avenue of what's pursued. So this is a really interesting phenomenon, which is that, interestingly enough, women's mate selection, when we see what they're moving towards, it seems to be a smaller section of men than it is for men towards women, meaning that men seem to want a much larger pool of women than the opposite. Why would that be? Well, it's because women desire a few different traits. They want men who are taller than them. Of course, men don't give a fuck if women are taller than them or shorter than them. They don't fucking care. Women want, generally, for men to make slightly more money than they do, or at least on par with the money they do. Men don't give a fuck if they make as much money as they do, right? Women prefer probably to have a mate who they think, can maybe fix cars or has a bunch of practical skills and things like this. Men, again, don't give a flying fuck. So what happens is the pool opens much wider for men because they're selecting for one primary thing over all others. Women aren't doing that. Yes, will women marry unattractive men who have really high status or get together with them? They do it all the fucking time, right? Men, on the other hand, are not going to settle down generally with a woman who's fucking ugly as shit. They're looking for some kind of woman who has some kind of beauty standard. That's it.
As I stated before, the reason why women are looking for people who have around like the same status as they do or higher is because women are still expected to take on the vast majority of home labor and are, basically unhappy with how uneven that system is. Women do not want to be doing both home labor and out home labor. They want to be able to either basically pick one or have it be around equal for both partners.
Then
so when you have a society...
How do you explain women saying then their preference?
Lol Paladins donated $100. She is also conflating intelligence with university brainwashing. Smart women are rare and nice. A woman with a degree is actually a negative. Most women aren't neurosurgeons, worthless decks.
But even if we were to grant it, Lol Paladins, even if we were just to kind of grant her idea of this, it still wouldn't negate my point. So who cares? But I mean, it's a good point. I'm just saying it doesn't negate mine either way.
as I said before about like home labor, essentially, what was the question that you asked?
Well, so you were saying that the reason that women are selecting for this is because they don't want to do both the external work and have to do
internal,
the
yeah.
home labor. But the thing that's really interesting is that men are showing.
Oh, sorry, I remember what you asked.
Men are showing a consistent desire to have women stay home where they don't have to do any external labor, and women are still shutting them down. They say, no, that doesn't go in with my preference of having my own safety net and having my own career, which is the thing that I desire, not to stay at home. So this argument that you are making right now, no, women would definitely hook up or end up marrying these guys if only they wouldn't make them work and stay at home is kind of moot because they don't want that.
Yeah, women basically want to be able to have their own career and have somebody who is willing to take 50% of the at-home
Sounds like
labor.
they're demanding a higher status from men than men are demanding from
Or no,
women.
they're demanding somebody to also take at-home labor. So when you look at like a lot of reasons why women divorce, one of them is like basically like differences in the household, unsatisfaction.
What's the number
Yes.
one? What's the number one reason they divorce? Irreconcilable differences.
Yeah, followed by
And-
money problem. What do you
and-
think those irreconcilable differences
Well,
are?
usually when Pew Research dove into this, it was really interesting because I had the same question. What the fuck? What does that mean, irreconcilable differences? The woman says, I fell out of love. He didn't give me the butterflies
Why do
anymore.
you think that happened?
Well, when they dive into it, they just say over time, in many cases, these women say there was nothing wrong with him. He just didn't give me the feeling anymore.
Yeah, at least from what I researched, it seems like a lot of these women, when it comes to especially households where the basically chore discrepancy is large and the women are still making around the same as the guy, they start feeling like they're mothers essentially to their men. They feel like, oh, you know, here I am being like basically the same level of breadwinner
But
and now
they're-
having to do the cleaning,
But
do
they're
the picking
divorcing
up.
at the same rates, even if the man is significantly making more money than them.
I am not certain about that.
It
I would
is
have to
certain.
see the exact study.
Well, not only is it certain, but I mean, if you take the pool, right? Here's the
I'm 99%
edges.
sure people with higher
Here's the
brackets
edges.
are
Yes,
less likely
that's
to
true.
divorce.
In higher brackets, they're less likely to be
Yes.
divorced because both of them are in a higher bracket.
So why are
The
you
thing
saying
that's
that that's not the
interesting is
case?
that because you have the center class, which is accounting for most marriages, not the higher class or the lower class, but the center class. The lower class, less likely to get divorced. Higher class, more likely to get divorced. Higher class, more likely to stay together. But what about this massive center, this center hole?
Yeah.
Well, when you look at the preferences in this massive center, who's accommodating almost all of these marriages, most of them, in fact, you find something really interesting, which is that men, their preference is we'll do a little more without, okay? And you can stay at home. Women say, no, fuck that. I don't want that. I don't prefer that lifestyle. I want to work. Okay, so I want to split these chores with you. And he's like, no, I don't want to split chores. I want to work. You do the chores at home. They want a traditional marriage, in other words. Women are saying no. They're opting out of that. So again, if we go back to your idea of status as being the symbol of patriarchy, it appears to me that women are demanding that men reach such a status where they not only are earning the same amount, okay, or more, but are also splitting the housework. Whereas men,
They're asking for the equal status.
their idea of this is actually less. No, it's not equal.
Yes.
It's a privilege to stay at home. It's not a privilege
It's
to
not a
fucking
privilege
work.
to have to do everybody's chores, laundry,
Oh
cleaning.
no, you have to do your own
No,
fucking laundry.
it's not.
Ah.
Why do you think?
Being
why,
a
why do you
housewife is
think,
the easiest fucking job
Okay,
on planet Earth.
why-
Don't ever try to bullshit me. I've had one for years.
Okay, if this was the
Easiest
case,
job
if this was
ever.
the case, why do fucking rich people outsource that labor if it's basically nothing?
What do you mean? Why not?
Because
they're
it's
busy
labor.
touring. They're busy
Labor is
touring.
not glamorous.
They're busy touring
Glamorous
fucking
is
Italy.
not. What is it? Labor is not glamorous. It's
Yeah,
a
so what?
labor. When
What
you
does that
can
have to do with
outsource it, you
anything?
do.
Wait,
So
wait,
nobody,
hang on, back
nobody's
up.
like, wow, I'm staying at home and I'm making the same amount of money. This is so much fun.
Let me
like
get this-
obviously,
let me
if
get
you're
this
making
right.
more money, you want the person to do the same level of labor at
I
home.
just want to make sure, right? If you're trying to make the case that labor is labor and labor hard, therefore people don't want to do labor, sure, I agree. But you do way more fucking labor having a job than being a stay-at-home mom. What are you talking about?
That's where people would disagree.
Who? Who
I
would disagree? Okay, let's go through
I
it.
would say it's a different type of labor.
Let's-
I would say at
yeah,
least.
okay, well,
hey,
let's
no,
go
no,
through it.
listen. Yeah, let's get through it.
Let's get
at
through
least
it.
when it comes to labor in the house, like outside the household, I am guaranteeing a level of wealth for myself. Versus if I'm just doing internal household labor, it becomes significantly harder for me to make my own business or to continue making money. So it means it's less stable. It means I am now.
That's because you're
dependent.
doing less work.
Yeah.
And I thought our whole issue
not
was labor.
Less work.
Yes,
not,
less
just,
work.
not just less work, which honestly is contentious. Whatever.
Well, yeah, but let's start with that
No.
contention.
You
I'm
are
sorry, you
not
keep
making.
jumping around. Let's
You're
start
not
with
making
contention
money.
one.
You're not making. You can be.
Yeah,
you can
okay,
have.
great. You can
I
prattle all you want.
No,
I'll wait
it's
till
not
you're done
battling.
prattling, but you're not gonna get away from the question.
I can be at home. Let's say I live in a pigsty and I have to do 20 amount more labor than if I went out to work.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard the labor is at home because the point of the matter is I am not making money at home.
Great. So now let's get back to this idea first before I address point 2 and 3 because you always bring them up in 4s because you kiss gallop a lot.
not kiss.
Let's just start with the first point. Can you explain to me how being a housewife, can you walk me through your labor day? Go ahead, walk me through the labor day you think a housewife goes through.
I'm basically cooking, cleaning, taking care of, well, it depends on what type of household you're in. But let's say for the very basics and very essentials, you're cooking, cleaning, and most likely taking care of children.
Okay, so let's say you have 2 kids at home.
Yeah.
Okay. One is 5 and the other one is 10. Okay. Walk me through your housewife day.
I wake up.
What time?
What is it? Probably early because I have to get the kids to school.
What time?
Either 6 or 7 a.m.
Okay, so you wake up at 7 a.m. Gotcha. Okay. Kids get on the bus, right?
Well, no. First, I have to cook breakfast.
You don't have to cook breakfast.
Most housewives will.
Most schools have free breakfast.
That's definitely not true.
It's
Most
definitely
schools
true.
definitely do not have free
Most
breakfast. That's why they're
definitely
trying to pass bills across the state. Okay.
But even
whatever.
assuming
Okay.
that you give them a fucking Go-Gurt and a bowl of cereal, you give them a bowl of
I have
cereal
to
on their
cook-
way out.
Okay. Whatever. You're asking me my day as a housewife. I'm telling you.
Okay, you tell me
I
your
cook
day.
breakfast
Okay.
for them
You're gonna
and for
cook
my
breakfast.
husband.
And what are you cooking for breakfast on an average day?
Let's say I'm making, eggs, bacon, pancakes.
Every day.
Typical American breakfast.
You're making that every day, huh?
Maybe not every day,
Okay.
but a few
How many
times a
days do you
week.
think a week you would make eggs and bacon and sausage and toast for the kids?
Let's say 2 or 3 times.
Oh, you're gonna make it 3 times. Okay, 3 times. Okay, so then what happens?
Then I have to get the children ready for school, which
Mm-hmm.
means that I have to make sure that they put on basically get ready, put on your
Yeah,
clothes,
20
whatever.
minutes. We got 20
They're
minutes.
brushing their teeth.
Yeah, 20 minutes of
making sure
labor.
that they have everything in their, what is it? That's more than 20 minutes, by the way.
To get kids ready for school?
To make sure that their, what is it? Lunchbox has everything because I have to pack their lunch too.
You pack it the night before.
Okay, well, we can add those minutes of labor at the end anyways. What is it? I also have to make sure that.
So you're up at 7 a.m. You've cooked breakfast, eggs and bacon and sausage. I'm going to give you a generous 30 minutes for that. 20 minutes of getting them ready. Now they're at school.
Okay.
Now, how long do you not have to take care of kids while they're at school?
You're going to say, they're at school for 8 hours.
Uh-huh. So 8 hours of labor gone.
Well, no, because in between that time, I have to make sure I'm cleaning everything.
Oh,
I have to
okay.
make
So
sure
let's
that the
go through.
groceries
How
are
big is your
filled.
house?
Let's say it's an average, or if this is not average, whatever. Let's say it's a 3-bedroom. I'm wealthy
Okay,
enough
so how
to-
many square feet is a 3-bedroom?
I don't know. I can't think of it on my head.
Okay, so an average 3-bedroom house, I'll just give you the square footage here. We'll say we're going to be really generous, give you a nice big house, 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
Big house.
That takes time. Also,
So hang
I'm
on,
sorry.
walk me through your
Wait.
3-bedroom,
Let me
3,000
pause
square
for
foot
1
house.
second. I want to pause for 1 second.
I don't
We
want to
know-
pause. I want you to walk me through
Okay,
your day.
no, because here's
Walk me through your day. Walk me through your day.
I am walking you through the day.
Good, then finish walking me through your
But
day.
here's the deal.
Okay, here we go.
Whatever.
Obfuscation.
It's not obfuscation.
It's gonna be obfuscation.
Just look at the fucking general market. We know how much we value this labor because when we outsource it to other people,
It costs $17 an hour.
it costs more than $17
No,
bucks
it
an hour
costs
to get your
$17
house
an hour.
cleaned. In most
I have a
places-
maid service. What are you talking about?
Okay. I don't want to be that person. Whatever. I grew up with a family that could afford that.
Costs $17 an hour. They come once a week and
It's
do a
more
deep
than
clean. It takes them
17
3 hours to do a deep clean. 17 an hour. Anyway, so 3-bedroom, 3,000 square foot. Walk me through the rest of your fucking day. Kids are gone. What's the first thing you're going to do?
Probably clean
Clean what?
breakfast.
Okay, so you clean breakfast. That's going to take you, what, 15 minutes?
It's going to take me more. I mean, what is it? That's 4
You
people.
take the dishes, you rinse them, you put them in the fucking dishwasher.
Okay.
This is not rocket science.
It's not just, what is it, that. It's also like crumbs on the floor, vacuuming, wiping down the table.
What are your fucking kids, animals?
I mean, it
Your
doesn't
kids
matter
are fucking, did they just take their plate, put their whole face in it? Or
No,
like,
I mean, what is
What
it?
are you talking about?
Like, it's just basic, right? Like,
That's not basic. My kids don't fucking stick their whole face in a
It
plate
doesn't
and
matter
slop
if they
around
don't
like
stick
pigs.
the whole thing in the plate.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
no
that-
crumbs. There's not shit all over the floor. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, so you got, but let's just say you pick up a few crumbs and this and that, okay, from your animal kids who you can't control because you're a bad mom. So now we've got, hang on, so now we're what,
Vacuuming,
30
wiping
minutes?
down.
30 minutes to clean up breakfast?
Maybe more, whatever.
Okay, how long does it take you to clean up fucking
30
breakfast?
minutes. Let's say 30 minutes.
I swear I could clean
Let's
up
do
a
it.
breakfast for 6 men in 30 minutes.
Okay, let's say 30 minutes.
Okay,
Whatever.
30 minutes.
What is it? Then I'd probably have to vacuum, like clean down, whatever, the different rooms in the house.
And
make
how
sure
long
that
does
the
this
kids. Depends on how big the house is. You said 3,000.
3,000 square feet, yeah. You gotta vacuum the house.
Oh, plus laundry.
Yeah, what if you have hardwood floors like most, sane people do when they have kids?
I mean, you still have to vacuum and wipe down, and mop.
Yeah, so you mop, so you're gonna mop. You're
What
gonna do
is
this
that?
every
That's like
day, by the way?
You'd probably do it. It depends on what basically like every other day.
Okay, well, let's just use your most load-heavy day. So this day, you're gonna clean the house. So
Okay.
This is your most load-heavy day you can think of.
Yeah. Okay. So that would probably take me. I don't know. It could be like anywhere like 2 hours.
It's gonna take you 2 fucking hours, really?
If I'm doing all the rooms, and if I'm doing what is it, vacuuming.
You're gonna deep clean every room in your house
It's not
once a
deep clean.
week?
I'm talking about like mopping. I'm then talking about vacuuming.
It's gonna take you 2 hours to vacuum your
A
house?
fucking 3,000 square feet and vacuum plus mopping. I'm putting both.
And
of
you're
them
gonna do this
together.
every day?
I'm not saying every day.
Okay, but on your labor-intensive day, okay, so we're gonna add 2 hours. Now what?
Okay. Then I have to check if there's enough food in the fridge, if I have to go out to the supermarket or not. Like basically take into consideration that. Sorry, I'm so
fine,
fidgety.
you're fine.
Okay, so you've taken into so now you need to go to the store and get something from the supermarket.
Yeah, I have to get food for every day.
Okay,
at
so you have
the
to get food. So
supermarket.
how long does that take you?
I don't know. Most people take like an hour in the supermarket.
Okay, so we got an hour. Okay, what else?
Okay. Then basically you get back home. You do have free time now, or you have some level of free time. You either basically can like lay around, wait.
So you're gonna lay around and wait for how many hours? So I mean, we've got three. So now I want to tell you where you're at in your day so far. Okay, this is what I have. Your day started.
Oh, take out the trash.
And this takes hours, I'm sure.
No, it doesn't take hours.
How
but
long?
It's just another thing to add onto the list.
How long? 2 minutes?
Yeah, basically 5 minutes.
5 minutes? We'll just like be really generous here?
Yeah.
Okay, so far, I have the count at, and I think this is very generous to you, 4 hours of work, and now you're lazing around your house, okay?
But
so hang on,
just...
by the time you're doing this, I want to let you know your day started at 7, okay? So what do we got, 8, 9, 10, so now it's 11 o'clock, and you ain't doing shit.
Okay,
the kids get out of school at what time?
3.
They get out at 3:30. Okay.
So I have to go pick
so
up
we
my
have
kids.
so we have 4 hours of you not doing shit right now.
Okay, wait. Let's continue.
Okay.
The kids get back home. Oh, you have to go pick up the kids, right?
No, you can have the school bus drop them off like every human being on planet Earth usually does. But even assuming you have to go pick them up, we'll generously add another
let's say
30
even
minutes.
a school bus picks them up. Unless your kids are, unless you're like bad mom, basically. I don't say that because there's so many differences. Whatever.
You're bad mom if the school bus drops off your kids?
No. I'm about to say you're gonna have to take them to extracurriculars unless if they have none. So
at 10?
Yeah.
What extracurricular? Is your kid going to be in an Einstein program?
Are you
what
kidding me?
extracurriculars?
Did you not have extracurriculars when you were 10?
No.
Okay.
What extracurriculars are there at 10?
Easy, simple sports like volleyball or soccer or whatever. You
think
program.
You think that kids at 10 years old are out at their fucking team? What were you doing at 10?
I was doing volleyball.
At 10?
Yes. I'm not
every
joking.
day after school?
Not every day, but
how many days after school?
I think like twice or maybe 3 times.
Okay, so you got to pick the one kid up from school.
And then the other one probably has other different extracurricular activities.
Okay, so you
pick
pick them both up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've lazed around for 4 hours. Now you're doing work again. You've gone and picked them both up. That takes an hour. Now what?
Now you have to drive them to their extracurriculars.
No. You picked them up from their extracurriculars.
Well, no, okay. You pick them up from school, then you have to take them to their extracurriculars. And then you have to be there.
You went to volleyball absent your school?
What do you mean?
Didn't you just, when you were done with school, you had volleyball at the school, right?
Not always. Sometimes when you have like those groups or whatever, they have practices like outside or they have
That's
them.
fucking rare. They do it at school.
Not all schools. Okay, well.
What?
I didn't.
You're in a 3,000 square foot house in the poorest community on planet Earth that doesn't do
it's not
volleyball
the
training
point.
at the school?
I literally, what is it? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they have outside training.
All right. Okay, so we got another hour. We're at 5 hours of actual labor and 4 hours of lazing. So give me the rest of the 8 hours here in your labor-intensive day.
So then include bringing them back from the extracurriculars.
Okay, so I'll add another hour there. Now we're at 6 hours.
Helping them with all their different homework.
Okay, so how long does that take you to do a
depends how much
10-year-old's homework?
Have you ever had...
Yes, I have. Have you?
I mean, I've helped my younger cousins before.
But, okay, how long?
Let's say it takes an hour. Not because...
1 hour, okay.
Yeah.
So now we're at 7 hours of labor?
Yeah.
This is your most labor-intensive day. Better give me some more because we're only at 7 hours.
Okay.
What else we got? You've got dinner, right?
Yeah. No,
Definitely got to do dinner. That's an hour.
Yeah.
So now we're at 8 hours, right?
And now you have to clean after dinner.
Now we have to clean after dinner, so
now
that's
you have to
30
pack
minutes. Now we're at
lunch.
8.5 hours, right?
Yeah. And now, what is it? You have to pack their lunch for the next day.
Sure.
You said include it at the end. So that means I have to make lunch. So what is that? 30 minutes? An hour?
Hey, sure. We'll get 30 minutes.
Okay.
So now we're at 9 hours.
And then, what is it? None of this includes basically the stuff that you have to do outside of school for your children. So whether it be, or I guess extracurriculars kind of counts, but that's like part of school. But now I'm thinking like, okay, like being involved in like play dates, being involved in.
Okay, so now it's bedtime basically, right?
Okay, yeah, you have to get them ready for bedtime.
Yeah, you get them ready to bed. We got 30 minutes. Now we're at 9.5 hours, and then you go to bed after chilling for a while, right? So we got 9.5 hours of labor on your most labor-intensive day.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through your least labor-intensive day and what that looks like?
Okay, yeah, sure. There's some days where all you have to do is cook and clean.
How many hours do you think in your least labor-intensive days?
My least labor-intensive days. Well, no, not just cook and clean. Bringing them in and out of school and extracurriculars. But maybe they don't have extra. Okay, least labor-intensive, I'd say like 3 hours.
3 hour days. Okay. How many of those are you going to have a week?
Depends. Maybe 3 or 4.
Okay, so we'll say just to be conservative 3.
Okay.
And then on your kind of medium days, we'd split it and say like 6 hours.
Okay, sure.
Okay, 6 hours.
And then that's not.
So now let's come up with our labor value
Wait.
here.
And to be clear, this is not including basically setting up things like play dates for your kids going to other places or for the kids coming to your house. You know, ideally, if you can.
We'll add some of that on. So let's say
okay.
3 days a week at 3 hours. Okay.
And
So
then,
now we're at 9 hours of total work just on your lightest days. 9 hours total. Then we're going to add in your heaviest day, which is going to be another 9 hours. We're at 18. Okay. That leaves us with a split of 6 at 4. So that's going to be plus 6, plus 6, plus 6, plus 6.
we never included laundry.
Yeah. Okay. How long for laundry? You put it in the washer, and you walk away from it.
Well, no, because you also
Are
have
you
to
doing
put
it
away
by
all
hand?
the clothes, and you're also having to strip
The kids at
sheets.
10 put their own clothes away. Didn't you teach your kids nothing?
What
Are your
is
kids
it?
dumb?
You
They
still-
already are eating out of a trough.
You still have to do your family, your husband and yours, unless if you're giving your husband labor at home. But assuming you're staying at home, no.
So we're
and then
at,
you're also putting away.
so at a generous,
Yeah.
very generous of me, by the way. I'm going to give you in 7 days, 45 hours of labor. 7 days, okay? So now, let's go ahead and divide that, okay? At 7, you're averaging 6 hours of labor a day. What do you think your husband's averaging of labor per day?
Yeah, you're gonna say 9 to 5, basically.
No. He's supporting an entire family. He ain't working 40 hours a fucking week. No fucking way
It
he's
depends on
working
his
40 hours
fucking
a
income
week.
bracket. 100%.
Yeah, okay, the average income bracket. This guy's pulling in at least 60 hours a week taking care of a family, right?
I don't know, honestly. I don't.
Okay, well,
the
let's just
average
give it
person is
40.
not
Let's just
working
give it
60 hours
40.
a week.
He's still doing 8 hours a day of labor in way less of a labor window than you are. 5 days versus 7. He's still working harder than you. If we give you
Is he
the
doing-
maximum amount of labor I can think of, he's still working harder
Is he
than you.
doing what is it? Is he doing physical labor or is his job service?
Any labor he's doing is harder than what you have
No,
described.
I disagree.
Really, vacuuming,
I disagree.
and driving to get stuff from the
No,
store.
the difference, and I'll tell maybe
You can do your job in your pajamas.
What is it?
Literally.
So basically, and there's been like a couple of studies on this, anyways. The 9 to 5 job.
Oh, thank God there's been studies.
Yeah, no, you can laugh at me all you want. The facts are facts. Nobody actually works 9 to 5.
Yeah, well, then I'm going to assume you don't actually work
Well, no,
this
'cause
amount of labor either.
Okay. The point being is that it seems like even though people go to the office 9 to 5, let me finish my sentence.
Seems?
It is the case that basically
Okay.
people do not actually work the entire time that they're at the office. It seems like there's a maximum amount. No,
Seems.
let me finish.
Well, no,
whatever.
I can't. I need you to commit to your positions,
Okay.
not say seems.
I'm committing to the fact that people don't actually work their entire 9 to 5. There is a limit to how much human productivity can get in a
Sure.
day, especially in an office.
Why should we assume that the same is the case for the housewife?
The reason why we specifically labeled it different is because and this is why I specified is it physical labor or not, because you are taking care of both. Okay, I know you're gonna laugh at me, whatever. The mental load in the sense of like,
Oh, yeah.
trying to keep track of everybody's schedules, trying to keep track of everybody has their things together, trying
That's
to keep
rough
track
out
of
there.
everything.
gotta
You
get
don't
your
really
ass
clock
up-
out.
you gotta get your ass up before 10 o'clock in the morning.
The difference is you don't clock out.
You just had a 4-hour window where you clocked the fuck out.
Not
on your
really.
busiest day. 4 hours of doing nothing on your busiest day.
Not really, because you're still always responsible.
You're sitting on the fucking couch eating bonbons watching Oprah
The difference
for
is
4
you're
fucking hours.
always going to be responsible for what happens to your children. So if something at
No,
school,
you're not.
yes,
If
if
they're
you're
at
if you're
school, you're
clocking
not-
out and then you miss a fucking message from the school saying, "Hey, we need you to pick up Jimmy. He just broke his fucking arm." You're the one who has to
Which happens every once in a while.
Well, it doesn't matter if it happens every once in a while. The point that I'm trying to get across here is
Is
that
that your
you're
afternoon
still.
nap might get interrupted by having to go pick up Jimmy?
No, okay, you're not letting me finish.
Well, I'm sorry. Listen.
No, you can make fun of me.
I have a huge family. I've
Yeah.
raised a lot of kids. I've got a housewife. And let me tell you something. It's not a hard fucking job. And the thing is like, here, let me walk you through a real day of an average housewife, not their coping bullshit fucking day. Even giving you a 3,000 square foot house, you couldn't fill more than a 6-hour window of your day. And that doesn't surprise me because here's what actually happens. A cold lunch gets put in the fridge for the next fucking day. Okay? Kid comes by in the morning, eats a fucking bowl of cereal, grabs the bag lunch, he's on the fucking school bus, and she doesn't do shit for hours. That's most housewives because they don't have to. Because the nice thing about a house, if it's maintained so you don't have to clean it. The reason it's maintained with a tiny amount of labor is so that you don't have to expand a large amount of labor.
Should we have Rachel do a call in real quick?
Sure.
I
Can
do-
you call her on the phone?
I'd love to hear
3
you
minutes?
tell Rachel
No,
about
I don't
how
want
hard
to.
a housewife's job is.
No, because I'm not trying to play housewife fucking Olympics. What I'm trying to get across. No, it's
I
very.
mean, you kind of are because you're extrapolating that the labor of a housewife is equal
You
to
won't
that
even
of
let
a
me finish
worker.
my last 5 sentences.
Go ahead.
Holy fuck.
Go ahead.
The point that I'm trying to get across is that when you are a housewife or a mom or whatever, you are basically constantly 24/7 responsible for your children and responsible essentially for what your husband does at home. That is taxing, that is exhausting. It is a different type of labor than going to the office. And not only that, but it's a labor where you're not getting fucking paid. So no matter what, at the end of the day, you are put at a disadvantage.
So when I come home,
Ryan.
hang on.
Sorry,
So
hi.
when I come home, yeah,
Sorry,
make it fair.
okay.
So when I come home from the end of a day, the end of a work day, and I hear, honey, the drain is clogged, the pipe is broke, the fucking door handle fell off, a kid fucking hit their elbow through the wall. Oh, I need all this fucking shit fixed. Oh, and the car's making funny noises. Am I getting paid for any of that labor?
No, but you're getting paid for the labor you do at the office.
No, she's also getting paid for the labor I do. Now, let me ask you a question. Is she eating off that labor?
Sure, yes, she
And would
benefits
she have
from
to
your
eat?
labor.
Would she have to eat?
But the point
would she
is-
have to eat even on the merits of her own labor?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so in both cases, would she have to house herself on the merits of her own labor?
Yes.
Would she have to heat her house?
But-
so the thing is she's still getting all of the benefits of the labor, just like I'm getting the benefits of the labor. The difference is that I still have to take on unpaid labor. She's actually getting paid for her labor.
No, the absolute difference is that, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
There is an absolute difference here. And it's that you ultimately do have control of the finances. If you decide to quit or to leave the next day, she is absolutely fucked. There's no way out of it.
Think about what you're saying here. You're saying that because the potential exists, that the relationship may not work out, that you need to create safeguards for yourself in the inevitable conclusion that it won't. Why would any man want to marry a woman in a million fucking years who says, I demand to have a safeguard for when this doesn't work out if women are the ones initiating most of the divorces?
What is it? It's not even the worst case scenario. If you die, she's fucked.
Yeah, but what about the net loss to the man? Think about it from a man's perspective of, wait a second, I just worked for 25 fucking years and you spent up huge amounts of my wealth, time, and everything else. You spent that. And I had to spend it on you, taking care of you, you fucking
because she's
eater.
taking
Hang
care
on.
of your
You
prodigy,
fucking
your
eater.
children.
Even if that's the case, you are also taking care of your children. She has an obligation to take care of her children.
She's taking care of the children more without a safety
She
net.
has that obligation, just like you do, take care of the children. That is equally yoked. But conveniently, you leave out, wait, I spent fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars on fucking you, taking care of making sure that you had the heating and everything else in this big house that I would not ordinarily need, and you got all of that. That doesn't count. Fucking compensate me.
What do you mean? I'm saying that, hey, you know, you can take care of her or whatever while she's taking care of the household labor. Sure, whatever.
Oh, the household
point
labor, a lot
of
of
the
that.
point of it is that if something happens to you, she is now fucked. And I'm not even saying be malicious about it. I'm saying, let's say you get a heart attack. So the point being is that she is essentially risking everything
So
to
is
just
he.
rely on
So
you.
is he. She
No,
can take him for
you're
everything
not.
in divorce court. Everything. Get alimony. Get half of his shit. Get the house.
Alimony is
Get
what?
custody of the kids.
Let's find
get
what's the
everything.
exact percentage of alimony again?
She could
Sorry,
get-
do most divorces
Stop.
end in alimony?
Stop.
No,
She
let's
could-
do it. Let's Google
You're
it.
not listening to the rest of it. Fuck the alimony then. We'll just say
Everyone
fuck the
gets
alimony.
alimony.
She can end up with half of everything. She could get the house primarily, get full custody of his children. Then who gives a shit? His child support is supporting her even fucking then. And that is most of the ways that divorces go. He's taking a greater risk than she is, even if she's sitting her fucking ass at home, because if she's unemployed, the court's going to award her child support from the man.
Yeah,
so he's
child
going to
support is
still
to
be
support the child,
Yeah, but it goes
not
to
her.
supporting her ass most of the time. Let's not kid ourselves.
I'm not kidding myself. Most of the time, it is supposed to go to support the
I
child.
know what it's supposed to go to. That doesn't mean that's what it goes to.
Also, what is it? I think you believe the courts enforce like child support more than they actually do. Like,
No, I definitely
there's no
don't.
way if you decide to run off in the middle of the night and go to a fucking different state that she's going to even have the monetary or legal resources to hunt your ass down.
I'm sorry. I do want to come in on this. So a woman can just go to the Department of. There
Got to be a neutral moderator here,
Oh,
Brian.
do
While
I?
we finish up. Yeah, be neutral. I like beating the tar out of people in debates, but it has to be fair. That's my rule. So back to
Well,
this.
it's just clarifying a point.
Yeah, but back to this, right? Yes, easily she can be awarded with all of this, and often they are. More often than not, they're awarded with this, especially if they have no income. Then the court looks at it and says the children need to have some type of equal life in both homes, so you need to compensate to make sure that they have that life over there. What is she losing here? In fact, she has an incentive to get divorced and go with a new man because now she cannot report his income taking care of her, plus gets his
I'm
income.
sorry, most women who.
Women.
Yeah, most women. We can search it up right now. Just Google it, honestly. Search up their economic status before and after divorce, please. How many of them are more financially off, better, being single mamas? The vast majority are not better off. That's just it. Like, it doesn't.
So what?
So what? So the fact is, this picture that you're painting, that women are like, divorcing their husbands
Prove
for
to me that they're
funsies.
worse off when they're in their 30s and get a divorce than when they were married at 20. Prove that to me. Prove that to me that at 30 they're worse off than when they were at 20 when they got married. I think they're better off still. They may not have had as good of a life as they had when they were married, but they chose the fucking divorce.
Economically speaking,
Economically speaking, at 30, I guarantee you that they're doing a lot better than they were at 20, even if they're fucking divorced. So that argument is moot. It means nothing. It doesn't even make sense.
You're saying, what is it? Well, first of all, I don't think anybody's doing very well if they're getting married in their 20s, generally speaking.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Agreed.
So what is it? I'm 99% sure, and we can find out right now. Most women end up in a lower socioeconomic bracket after they divorce than before they
Yeah,
divorced.
but that doesn't mean that their socioeconomic bracket still isn't higher than it would have ordinarily have been had they not been married.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Prove it.
Let's find out. Like,
Prove
can
it.
we Google right now, honestly?
Prove that they leave.
look it up.
Prove that they go into the marriage at a higher socioeconomic status than when they leave. I would love to see that
How
demonstrated.
about this? While she's looking that up, we do have a super chat. Paul James. She sounds so wild. You sound like the vice. I can imagine can be wait, what? Oh, the vice president. I can imagine can be and unburden what has been, but can be unburdened by what has been, but there are those still unburdened.
Word.
Paul James, thank you for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Even though I didn't really understand it, I still appreciate it. Thank you, man. And then we do have, I'm going to let these, there's some TTSs that were.
Yeah, we got to wrap the debate anyway.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up here soon. Guys, if you want, the TTS has been dropped to $69. Unless you guys want to do a 10-minute roast session.
Do the 10-minute roast.
Okay, we'll do a
There's
little
one
roast
more
session.
thing, then we can go to the roast session. You're saying before marriage
There's
and
some
then
TTS.
after marriage.
Hold on, just let these come through real quick.
69 donated $69.69. Hi, Andrew. How are you today, man?
Good. How are
Hey,
you?
Pixie on board. I was wondering, do you want to daily talk on Instagram and get helpful texts by me? I give you 69. Ooh, 304.
Pixie, did you hear that?
What did you say?
Do you want to talk on Instagram with this guy?
Jess Gerald donated $69.
Hey, Gerald, good to see you in
I
chat,
thought
man.
running
Thank
wheelbarrows
you.
of concrete for 12 hours was difficult.
Well put, Gerald. Sorry that it took us a little while to get to these. They came in about 15 minutes ago. I just wanted to pause it to allow the conversation to flow. Gerald, thank you for the TTS. Much appreciated. Pixie, any response to 69? He wants to talk daily on Instagram. No. Yes or no? You need a yes or no?
No.
Okay, just once a week then.
Jess Gerald donated $100. And I thought running wheelbarrows of concrete for 12 hours was rough.
There it is again. Gerald, thank you for the TTS. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, listen.
Oh, wow.
It's not, okay? Housework, 6 hours of it per day on your heaviest day is you and your fucking stupid concrete, bro. You know what, dude? Why don't you just stop being such a little bitch? Go do some housework for 6 hours a day on your heaviest day. That will teach you the value of real work, sir. That is the value of real work.
Ulysses the Pagan donated $69. I'm machinist at a heat treatment plant working 12-hour shifts 5 days a week in overtime. My wife is stay at home, happy and has a beer ready for me. She's not Serbian, just grateful and I heard.
Yeah, but dude, okay, listen, Ulysses, you're fucking ridiculous, okay? Just because you work way more than 40 hours a week like every other fucking working class man who has a family that I'm aware of at the moment, doesn't mean that your contribution is nearly as much as it is from 6 hours of daily housework. Why don't you get your shit together, bro? Get your fucking shit together. What the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, last thing. The poll, I think we ended it. It had about 25
hours of daily housework. Why not at the moment? Because you work way more than 40 hours a week like every other fucking working class man who has a family that I'm aware of at the moment, doesn't mean that your contribution is nearly as much as it is from 6 hours of daily housework. Why don't you get your shit together, bro? Get your fucking shit together. What the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, last thing. The poll, I think we ended it. It had about 2,500 votes. It was 91 to 9%. Or sorry, 91 to 9%.
Bias,
So-
very, I mean, it's just sample selection of men. I'm sure that all of them are lying about their preferences.
I'm not even going to get into sample selection, but I do want to mention when you were earlier stating, oh, you have to compare it before marriage versus after marriage. You also have to compare it to what would the woman have been making if she did not stay at home.
Yeah, but that's a subjective metric.
That's not a subjective
Yeah,
metric.
it is.
No,
So the thing is
absolutely
like,
not.
if these chicks are getting married as fucking baristas, and then they go, but I
Yeah,
had a
but the
dream
vast
to be an
majority-
astronaut. It doesn't mean shit
The
to
vast
me.
majority are getting married within, like, essentially their socioeconomic
No, most of them are
bracket.
getting married at fucking 30 and have hopped between 20 fucking
Are
jobs in
you
their
fucking
life.
kidding me? Are most people, wait,
Most people get married in their 30s.
okay, yes.
Yeah.
I thought you said most people, I thought you were saying, like,
And guess
20 to
what? They
30s.
jumped 20 fucking jobs before they got married usually. Most of them don't even have stable fucking linear careers. So what are you talking about?
They're still making cash versus if they just stayed at home.
Yeah, but you said
How is
they're
that hard to understand?
because that cash offset, they would be spending it anyway. And in this case, the man is taking care of that same cash they would have been spending.
We're saying they would be making more cash
Prove
and
it. Prove it. Prove that they
Okay.
would have been. Prove